Chapter 3363. Black Wind King. Penshur did not understand what Yuanya was talking about, so he pointed his finger and said, "This woman is the princess of Jiang country, and is also the person that Yuan Shi ordered us to kill. This old man does not know how King Wancho will explain it, but this matter is not something that Black Wind Ridge can handle. If the king is interested in women, once this matter is over, this old man will find 100 peerless beauties and send them to King Wancho and Black Wind King to show the sincerity of my Bronze Pillar country." Black Wind King. As soon as Penshur finished speaking, General Sukun's voice sounded again. "You have been tyrannical in the Black Wind Ridge for many years, but my monarch has ignored you. This is the monarch's mercy. Today, Penshur has already said this, giving you enough face. If you don't retreat immediately, don't blame me for leading the Iron Hooves to trample all over Black Wind Ridge." Unfortunately, just as General Sukun's words fell, before the Black Bear Spirit could reply, Yuanya had already flown down from the distance, his twin hammers dancing as he pounced towards the heavy armored soldiers. When the heavy armored soldiers who had been waiting for a long time saw Yuanya pouncing over without a care for his life, several spears flashed with cold light as they pierced towards Yuanya from different angles. Woo-woo! Yuanya swung his demonic hammer and borrowed the strength of the hammer to display his might. When the spears came into contact with the demonic hammer, they were sent flying like rice straws. At the same time, the demonic hammer landed on the heads of two heavily armored soldiers. Even though they were protected by their heavy armor, everyone could only hear two muffled, "pu-pu" sounds in the deathly silence. Not only were the heads of the two heavily armored soldiers sent flying, but the black horses they were riding also could not withstand the weight of the demonic hammer. Their forehooves gave way and they fell into the swamp. Seeing how fierce Yuanya was, especially when Xiaohua sent Yuanya, a human, to the front of the formation, no matter how stupid the Black Bear Spirit was, he understood that what Yuanya said was true. He did not dare to hesitate any longer, and once again took out a black demonic spear from his small cosmos bag. He raised it towards the sky and shouted, "Everyone kill! Kill!" The little demons of Black Wind Ridge obviously did not have enough brains, and after holding it in for so many days, their hearts were already filled with grass. Now that they heard the Black Wind King's order, they immediately waved their flags and shouted, waving their weapons and rushing down. "Kill!" Penshur narrowed his eyes. The blood-red scar on his face grew even brighter as he waved his hand and gave the order. "Caw!" Hundreds of eagles let out a long cry in unison. They spread their long feathers and pounced over in a more orderly manner than the small demons. When they got a little closer, clang, 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 the sound of arrows being fired suddenly rang out. Hundreds of armor-piercing arrows were shot out from the bows of the eagle soldiers. They were like locusts flying towards the hundreds of small demons. These armor-piercing arrows might not be as powerful as immortal slaying crossbows, but when hundreds of them flashed with a faint light at the same time, the inscriptions on the tips of the arrows vibrated in the same rhythm, and a mighty aura surged within 1,000 feet of the flying arrows. Their destructive power could not be underestimated. "Damn it!" The Black Bear Spirit saw this and muttered. He urged the demon cloud, waved his magic wand, and charged into the rain of arrows. Woo-woo! The Black Bear Spirit's subordinates were also skilled. Under the shadow of the magic wand, the powerful force of the magic wand sent the armor-piercing arrows flying. He did not suffer any injuries. Seeing that the magic wand was effective, the Black Bear Spirit's courage was boosted. Roar! With a loud roar, he spat out clouds of black gas from his mouth and pounced towards the eagle soldiers closest to him. The Black Bear Spirit was naturally not afraid of the armor-piercing arrows, but the same could not be said for the small demons under him. Pu-pu-pu! Dozens of muffled sounds rang out, followed by heart-wrenching screams. Dozens of armor-piercing arrows pierced through the demon cloud protecting the small demons and shot into their bodies. Other than a few burly and thick-skinned bear spirits who gritted their teeth and endured the intense pain, the other badger and snake demons all cried out and fell from the sky. Humph, a bunch of mobs! The armored General Sukun looked coldly at everything in the air. He knew that these armor-piercing arrows were not just effective against the Black Armor Army, but ordinary Yao could not stop them. His gaze landed on Yuanya, who was fighting with the heavy armored soldiers. The battle on the ground was completely different from the battle in the air. With 2 hammers in hand, Yuanya was truly invincible. The heavy armor that the heavy armored soldiers were so proud of was like paper in front of his magic hammers. The heavy armor also made the cavalry and horses extremely clumsy. This made Yuanya, who was like an agile ape, like a fish in water. Every time he swung his magic hammers, he would take away a life. In just a few moments, 7 heavy armored soldiers had died under Yuanya's hammers. Not just that, Yuanya's presence was like a rainbow, and completely shattered the fighting spirit of the heavy armored soldiers. The heavy armored soldiers had maintained a good formation all this time, but now they were starting to collapse. "You brat!" General Sukun did not dare to hesitate. He slapped his horse and charged down from the air, his spear stabbing towards Yuanya's forehead. "Let this general fight you!" The Changeling princess was stunned. He really stood there foolishly. She looked in disbelief as the Yao charging out of the Black Cloud Ridge fought with the soldiers of the Copper Pillar State. She and the others had become side characters that no one paid attention to. But she did not dare to believe her eyes. She knew that Father King's arrangements were not for these man-eating Yao. But looking at the back of the person fighting the heavy armored soldiers like a dragon entering the sea, she felt a sense of familiarity. This feeling seemed to be natural, but also like a mark in her heart. In particular, when he called out, "Diao Wu," it caused her heart to tremble. This butterfly dance sounded very unfamiliar to her, but somehow, it made her feel so touched that she almost had the urge to agree without hesitation. But she knew that she was from Changeling, and no one in her life had called her butterfly dance. Suddenly, the Changeling princess realized. This person seemed to be the one she had seen at the border of Shi dozens of days ago. Immediately, the scene of Yuanya being smashed in the nose by the spirit Jujube appeared in her mind. How is this possible? The Changeling princess was shocked. Just a commoner, how can I have such a deep memory? Your Highness. Granny Ji's voice appeared by the Changeling princess's ear. Today, we cannot hesitate. No matter what the goal of these Yao is, it is beneficial to us. We can either take the chance to flee into the depths of the Black Cloud Ridge, or work with these Yao to kill the enemy soldiers. Granny Ji looked at Sect Uncle Chin, who was fleeing in the distance, and said, Copper Pillar State brought out the Immortal killing crossbow to deal with the Dao soldiers. The National Preceptor was accidentally killed by the Immortal killing crossbow under the attacks of many literary masters. With such a weapon, we are invincible. The Changeling princess took her gaze away from Yuanya's back. She glanced coldly at the flying Luan soldiers who were not hurrying over. She said coolly, While humans and Yao are different, sometimes the Fae that eat humans will do warm-hearted things. Most of the time, ordinary people will do things that eat humans. Kill! Since we have no way out, kill one and earn one. Kill, kill, kill! Hearing the Changeling princess order, Qianli, Kongli, and the other woman gave the order in unison. Immediately, the iron hooves of the dozens of black-armored soldiers moved again. Dozens of iron spears reached out and charged towards the heavy armored soldiers. They were going to fight a battle of mutual destruction. Creak, creak! The spears were like arrows, black horses racing the bow. General Sukun's spear seemed to pierce through the air and gave off an unpleasant sound of friction. Yuanya smashed a black horse flat with his hammer, and suddenly raised his head. His bloodthirsty eyes flashed with the ferocity of a hungry wolf. He then raised his head and howled, even more ferocious than a wild wolf. Following which, Yuanya's figure flew up and stepped on a black horse. His figure suddenly grew taller, and then his other foot stepped on the heavy armored soldier's shoulder. A kacha sound was heard as the heavy armored soldier's collarbone was shattered. Yuanya's demonic hammer had already been raised and directly smashed towards General Sukun's spear. Seeing Yuanya's eyes that were even more ferocious than a wild beast, General Sukun's viciousness was ignited. But he also shouted, "Kill!" His arms gathered strength and stabbed at the two hammers howling over. Clang! There was a loud sound. It was unclear if the demonic hammer had hit the spear or if the spear had pierced the demonic hammer. After the deafening sound, the black horse General Sukun was riding whinnied. Light flashed between its hooves as though it wanted to maintain its balance. But the force coming from General Sukun's body seemed endless. The black horse was unable to stabilize itself after taking a few steps back and was about to flip into the air. General Sukun was helpless. Ignoring the numbness in his arms, he hurriedly jumped up. His heavily armored body flipped a few times in the air before he managed to dissipate the force. When the black horse psychically flew under General Sukun's body, General Sukun's eyes flashed with surprise. His arms drooped. The spear that he usually lifted easily could not be moved. This guy really is a brave general. General Sukun couldn't help but think. If we were to reach the front of the two armies, who would be a match for him? General Sukun was in such a sorry state, and Yuanya was not much better off. However, his body was nimble, and the numbness in his arm disappeared in an instant. His body was shot down diagonally from the sky, but he had landed among the heavily armored soldiers. When the devil hammer fell, the black armor that was everywhere was destroyed. What was special was that at this time, the black armored army of Jiangwa had already rushed over. Although there were few of them, under Yuanya's attacks, the black armored army had lost several more. Not to mention the fact that the heavy armored soldiers had been defeated by Yuanya's attack. Just the small demons that had just been defeated by the Eagle Troop's armor-piercing arrows had already pounced forward while the Eagle Troop had yet to load up their crossbows. The small demons that had been shot by the armor-piercing arrows earlier were now extremely ferocious. Each of their methods were cruel, and their claws, which were comparable to sharp swords, tore apart the Eagle Troop's armor, or used their bloodthirsty teeth to bite through the Imperial equipment's protective body. There were even mini bear spirits that spat out demonic chi, causing the Eagle Troop to faint. Taking advantage of the black bear spirit's carelessness, they bit off the white flesh and blood. -12. Chapter 3364. If they were fighting with the enemy, it would be fine if they died. But when they were fighting with the Fae, the Eagle soldiers had a kind of terror. Especially when they saw someone being eaten alive, the Eagle soldiers were even more frightened. The formation that they had maintained previously collapsed in an instant. Unfortunately, Master Pan did not have the time to command the Eagle soldiers. He was now wielding a pitch-black tower that looked like it was cast from copper and iron. He was having a great time fighting with the Black Bear Spirit. The Black Bear Spirit looked like he was in a sorry state. He was forced to dodge left and right by Master Pan. He even spat out his monster core. But Master Pan knew that the Black Bear Spirit was cunning. He did not fight with him directly. Whether it was the demonic spear or the monster core, or even the monster aura controlled by the Black Bear Spirit, they all avoided clashing with his tower and noble aura. All of his attacks and defenses were delayed. Since the Black Bear Spirit was delaying, Master Pan had even more reason to delay. He did not care about King Wancho. He was waiting for the arrival of the Immortal slaying crossbow. He firmly believed that once the Immortal slaying crossbow was released, the demons hiding in the Black Cloud Ridge would be skewered like ordinary black bears. Indeed, in less than half a cup of tea's time, a burly bear spirit roared. Black light flashed between his claws and tore an Eagle soldier into pieces. His bloody mouth opened wide, ready to eat another Eagle soldier alive. But then, a loud one sound that seemed to gather all the sounds in the world. Everyone, including the demons, trembled in their hearts. A gust of wind swept up everyone and surged into a ray of crimson light. Like a meteor streaking across the sky, the whimpering airflow produced a soul-stirring sound. The bear spirit quivered and felt the impending danger. The black fur on his body immediately stood up. Unfortunately, before he could react, the Immortal's slaying crossbow was already in front of him. The bear spirit only had time to turn his head and spit out a mouthful of monster aura. The Immortal's slaying crossbow had already rushed into the monster aura. The tiny inscription stirred up the noble aura and swept away the monster aura. Then, the crossbow pierced into the bear spirit's abdomen. The bear spirit's skin and flesh were originally tough, comparable to ordinary Imperial equipment. However, under the Immortal slaying crossbow, it barely withstood it for a moment. Then, the bloody light flashed and rushed into the bear spirit's body. Not only that, but with a loud explosion, the Immortal execution crossbow exploded inside the bear spirit's body. Blood and flesh flew everywhere. Half of the bear spirit's monster body was blasted into smithereens. The bear spirit didn't even have time to scream before it fell from the sky. Immediately, everyone and all the demons were stunned. The entire sky was deathly silent. Then, the black bear spirit screamed, "Run!" He turned into a gust of demonic wind and tried to escape into the black cloud ridge. "Come, come!" Just as the black bear spirit was about to flee, another 2 Immortal execution crossbows rang out. 2 crimson rays of light shot towards the black bear spirit from 2 different directions. "Master, save me!" The 2 red lights were still far away from the black bear spirit, but the black bear spirit was so frightened that he could not help but scream. "Useless thing!" A calm voice came from above everyone's head. Panchur and the rest were shocked. They hurriedly looked over and saw a young man in a light green Taoist robe standing above them. Woo! Just as the Immortal slaying crossbow was about to kill the black bear spirit, numerous demonic auras and a faint golden light appeared from the black bear spirit's shoulder. The Herculean centipede, which had been motionless all this while, suddenly flew into the sky and expanded greatly. Pung! The Immortal slaying crossbow mercilessly nailed the Herculean centipede's tail. Thousands of inscriptions flashed violently, causing a sharp light. Unfortunately, this light was completely destroyed by the faint golden light on the Herculean centipede's tail. However, the huge impact caused the Herculean centipede to fly diagonally. It turned into an arc and charged towards the black bear spirit. It was also at this moment that something happened that made Panchur and the rest speechless. The Herculean centipede was sent flying in the same direction as the Immortal slaying crossbow. Its speed was also the same. The Immortal slaying crossbow quietly stopped beside the Herculean centipede. The Herculean centipede lightly waved its antennae. With a crisp, ka-bie sound, the Immortal slaying crossbow that could easily kill the black bear spirit was instantly broken into 2. At this moment, the Immortal slaying crossbow was only 10 feet away from the black bear spirit. Humph! Just as Panchur and the rest were stunned, Xiaohua, who was high up in the sky, coldly snorted. A pressure that was even more violent than the raging waves was released from his body. In an instant, it enveloped an area of several miles. Not to mention that the flying Luan soldiers holding the Immortal slaying crossbow trembled, unable to shoot another Immortal slaying crossbow. Even the Rainbow Luan and the Flying Eagle trembled and fell from the sky. Panchur and the rest turned pale with fright. They hurriedly activated their divine sense to resist. However, they were only at the 3rd level of cultivation. How could they resist the pressure of a late nascent soul stage cultivator? An instinctive fear from the bottom of their hearts took control of their bodies. While they could barely maintain their figures in the air, if they wanted to fight back, they feared they could not even raise their fists. Old master! When the black bear spirit saw Xiaohua appear, his oppressive aura immediately subdued the enemy without a fight. Instantly, his face turned aggrieved as he cried out sorrowfully. This little one almost couldn't see old master again. Old master? Panchur paled. He had not thought that the Black Cloud Ridge demons would call a Taoist cultivator old master. On the other side, the Chanling princess was overjoyed. She had seen the presence of the Jiang country imperial preceptor. When this so-called old master appeared, his presence was even stronger than the imperial preceptor's. Not to mention these pursuers, even if there were many times more of them, they would not be a match for this old master. Especially, the black bear spirit had just said that he had come to rob on old master's orders. In other words, this person was the true mastermind. The person who had saved her. Needless to say, This person was Father King's hidden hand. The ease of escaping spread from the channeling princess's heart. But Xiao Hua, who had the entire situation under his control, did not relax at all. He ignored the crowd and turned his head to look into the distance. He said coolly, "Fellow Immortal, you have seen a lot from behind. Do you not want everyone to see your appearance?" The channeling princess and the others were stunned. She had not thought that Tong Shuigua would put in so much effort for her, and that there would be an expert helping her behind the pursuers. "All right, since you will not come out, this old man will invite you out." Xiao Hua waved his sleeve and smiled coldly. "However, this old man invited you out, so do not blame this old man." As he spoke, a green light flashed between Xiao Hua's eyebrows. In the sky 100 zhang away, layer after layer of dark clouds suddenly appeared. Traces of lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, covering an area of 100 zhang. Moreover, when Xiao Hua waved his sleeve, Xiao Huang and Xiao He had already flown out and rushed into the sky. You are Xiao Hua!" An extremely surprised voice came from the lightning, and then a slender Confucian cultivator holding a flying sword appeared in the lightning with a puzzled expression on his face. Along with the appearance of the Confucian cultivator came a storm in the sky. The Confucian cultivator didn't say much, but his words were filled with surprise. However, as soon as he said those words, a vast amount of righteous qi rushed in from all directions. Not only did the righteous qi disperse the dark clouds in the sky, it also blocked the path in front of the Confucian cultivator and forced the lightning away. Especially, in this righteous energy, the Confucian cultivator's figure was unusually tall. It was as though the Confucian cultivator had merged into the world and become one with the righteous energy. Xiao Hua's presence was not a threat to him. So much so that several streams of overwhelming qi soared into the sky like pillars, directly pressing down on Xiao Hua. Under the powerful pressure, Xiao Hua's thin protective true qi was smashed to pieces, and his light green Taoist robe was also pierced with several large holes. Hiss! Xiao Hua sucked in a breath of cold air. He first looked at his Taoist robes, then at his exposed skin. Although the righteous energy was powerful, Xiao Hua's body-tempering technique had reached great success. This kind of momentum could not hurt Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua then sized up this Confucian cultivator. Although this person's face looked somewhat familiar, Xiao Hua believed that he had never seen him before, not even during the auction for Catfish's body. Who could this be? Just as this thought appeared, Xiao Hua suddenly realized something. Damn it, since he is a Confucian cultivator from the Bronze Pillar State, he must be related to the Seven Sons Monastery. My name was left on the blood steel. Since you know who I am, why don't you tell me your name? Xiao Hua called out coldly. Could it be that Confucian cultivators are all cowards? His name is Jiang Tianheng. Martial Uncle Qin's weak voice came from the distance. My martial ancestor was besieged by a few literary cultivators and died. Senior, you must avenge my Taoist disciples. Jiang Tianheng? Xiao Hua's mind moved. He looked at Jiang Tianheng's familiar face and smiled. So it is a member of the Jiang family of the Bronze Pillar State. Sir must know Jiang Wenhao? More than know. Jiang Wenhao saw that martial Uncle Qin had called him out and did not hide anything. He said coolly, Jiang Wenhao should call this old man ancestral uncle. That's good, that's good. Xiao Hua rubbed his hands and grinned. Presumably, the Jiang clan hates this Xiao to the bone. Now that you've met this Xiao, fellow Taoist Jiang can take credit for it. Ha ha ha, not bad, you are very right. Jiang Tianheng also clapped and laughed. My master originally wanted to use the channeling princess as bait to see what other fish he could catch. But he did not expect to catch such a big fish like Taoist Xiao. This really exceeded this old man's expectations. In reality, not just my Jiang family, even the master of the Bronze Pillar State hates Taoist Xiao to the bone. You didn't just push down the walls of the Imperial Academy, you treated the capital of the Bronze Pillar State as nothing, wantonly killing people and setting up your own blood steel. If not for the fact that the master had sent all the Immortal killing crossbows to the front lines when he was fighting Jiang country, the Regent Crown Prince would have used all the immortal killing crossbows against you. -12. Chapter 3365. It's not too late now, Xiaohua sneered. The wishful steel staff swayed and turned into 2 feet long, whistling towards Jiang Tianheng. At the same time, dozens of thumb-sized thunderbolts were also produced, roaring towards Jiang Tianheng. Clang! Jiang Tianheng saw this and opened his mouth, spitting out a mouthful of cyan genuine qi. The flying sword in his hand grew bigger. Jiang Tianheng held the flying sword with both hands, opened his mouth again, and chanted. With my will, I control the dragon. With my body, I burn the world. With my mind, I move the universe. With my heart, I cut the heavenly thunder. Following Jiang Tianheng's sword intent, countless clouds of Aoran Qi appeared around him. Streams of Aoran Qi shot out from his flying sword. Pillars of Aoran Qi also appeared and pierced through the entire world. Not only were the dark clouds pierced through, but they also attacked Xiaohua and blocked Xiaohua's path of pursuit. Moreover, the flying sword turned into a piece of cyan wood that could cover the thunderbolts, cutting the falling heavenly thunder in half. Hee, a wooden flying sword is really rare. You really do have some skills. While everyone was shocked, Xiaohua did not care. He smiled coldly and urged the cloud to fly towards Jiang Tianheng. However, just when Xiaohua was still some distance away from Jiang Tianheng, a scene that made everyone's eyes pop out happened again. Jiang Tianheng cut the thunderbolts with the sword. Not only did he not pursue, but he turned into a sword and fled into the distance with a flash of cyan light. Since you're here, don't think about leaving. Of course, Xiaohua was also stunned. Then, with a roar, the wishful steel staff suddenly became long and smashed down from the sky. At the same time, hundreds of thunderbolts roared again. They blocked the direction of Jiang Tianheng's escape. Amidst the lightning, Huang Feng and He Dian took advantage of the chaos to approach Jiang Tianheng. This time, Jiang Tianheng was shocked. He did not expect Xiaohua to use so many means at once, and at the same time. He hurriedly waved his hand, and from his sleeve, a leopard several times bigger than Goldie appeared in the air. Then, it opened its mouth and spat out a breath of clear air again. Now, it turned into a strong tree, wanting to block the heavenly thunder that came down from the sky. His flying sword drew an arc in the air, ready to catch Xiaohua's wishful staff. The leopard was very arrogant, and was about to pounce on Goldie when Blackie roared and a silver light came out of its nose. The leopard immediately shrank back and tucked its tail between its 2 hind legs. It swallowed the demonic qi it was about to spit out. The leopard looked back at Jiang Tianheng and seemed to want to hide again. Unfortunately, Jiang Tianheng could not even protect himself, so how could he take care of the leopard? Gotcha! The thunder fell, and Jiang Tianheng's cyan qi collapsed in a moment. His flying sword shattered as soon as it touched Xiaohua's wishful steel staff. Jiang Tianheng gritted his teeth, and the genuine qi surged around his body. The pillar of noble qi that was comparable to a sharp sword was about to be born again. He was ready to fight to the death with Xiaohua. But at this moment, Jiang Tianheng suddenly covered his head inexplicably, as if his head had been pierced by a sword. He shouted in midair. Hee hee! In this gap, a yellow wind blew by Jiang Tianheng's side. This wind blew up his Confucian robe and his sleeves. A faint bloodstain appeared on his torn back after the faint inscriptions under his Confucian robe flashed. You! Jiang Tianheng knew that he might not be the opponent of Xiaohua, who was at the late nascent soul stage, but he still did not expect that he would be so vulnerable. He might not have noticed the numbness and itchiness of the bloodstain on his back, but when he saw Xiaohua's wishful steel staff suddenly retract and the dark clouds in the sky suddenly dissipate, he had a bad feeling in his heart. Jiang Tianheng was only surprised for a moment before a large number of black lines appeared on his back. These black lines were like tentacles that quickly covered Jiang Tianheng's body. Wherever the black lines passed, pieces of flesh and blood would fester and fall off. He died with his eyes wide open. This was probably what Jiang Tianheng was thinking before he died. He even regretted that he had snatched this lucrative mission from someone else. and he seemed to have seen what kind of disaster the Jiang family of the Copper Pillar country would face. Because just before he closed his eyes, he saw Xiaohua actually fly to his body. There was a slight sneer on Xiaohua's face, and Xiaohua's index finger that was about to reach out and touch the spot between his eyebrows that was about to lose consciousness had a terrifying twist to it. In just a few moments, Jiang Tianheng's body turned into flesh and blood and disappeared. The white bones also gradually melted. Xiaohua's finger retracted from the spot between his eyebrows. Looking at the small qiankun bag floating in the air, Xiaohua did not hesitate to put it away. When his gaze fell on the leopard actually whimpered twice and curled up in the air, not daring to move. In the eyes of others, Xiaohua had killed Jiang Tianheng in the blink of an eye. Moreover, Jiang Tianheng had no power to fight back under several kinds of magical powers. They unconsciously looked at Xiaohua with more fear and respect. However, Xiaohua himself was very clear. After all, Jiang Tianheng was a third-grade upper-stage literary master and was only at the late golden core stage of the Tao sect. Xiaohua actually relied on the pressure of a late nascent soul stage cultivator, coupled with the lightning flash and thunder roll technique, and even had Goldie use poison to kill him. If he really said it out loud, Xiaohua could forget about keeping his face. He was too much of a bully. The somewhat dissatisfied Xiaohua flew onto the leopard and slowly retracted his pressure. He looked around and could not help but sigh in his heart. His pressure was fake, so he controlled it very well. The heavy-armored soldiers, eagle soldiers, and flying Luan soldiers of the Copper Pillar State suffered a lot, but the black-armored army of the Jiang country and the small demons of the Black Wind Ridge did not suffer much. Just as Xiaohua was about to kill Jiang Tianheng, the soldiers of the Jiang country who had the chance to seek revenge were extremely jealous, and killed all of the black-armored army without leaving a single one alive. Of course, Yuanya's hammer played a decisive role in this. More than half of the eagle soldiers and flying Luan soldiers were also killed by the small demons. Seeing Master Pan and General Sukuin trembling in fear, Xiaohua could not bear it in his heart. Just as he was about to say something, Xiao Jian's voice came from not far away. "Senior, to cut the grass, you must remove the roots. Moreover, Senior has already left behind a blood monument in the Copper Pillar State. In the future, there will definitely be more Confucian cultivators chasing after you. Although Senior's reputation has risen, trouble has also piled up. If the news of Senior's presence in the Black Cloud Ridge were to spread, not to mention the Confucian sects and the Jiang family, even the king of the Copper Pillar State would definitely send troops to suppress you. At that time, not only would Senior have to abandon the mountain and leave, even the Black Wind King and the others would not be able to keep their lives. Senior, please don't be reckless and show even the slightest bit of kindness. Sigh, this old man knows." Xiaohua knew that Xiao Jian's words were extremely true, and nodded helplessly. "These two generals of the Confucian cultivators, go and kill them. After all, they are heroes of their generation. Don't let them fall in the hands of the demons." "Yes, this junior understands." Xiao Jian bowed and then flew over. With a swing of his sword, he killed the two generals who were about to die in the mouth of the bear spirit. Just as Xiaohua thought, the two generals' eyes actually revealed a trace of gratitude. The demons of the Black Wind Ridge had won a great victory, so the black bear spirit naturally did not need to rush to the front with the magic wand. Thus, the black bear spirit rode the demon cloud and flew to Xiaohua's side. At this moment, his expression was somewhat embarrassed. He did not expect Xiaohua to hide and watch from the side. Presumably, Xiaohua had already seen his cowardice. Only then did he call out in a low voice, "Master, you are indeed very resourceful. I wonder when this junior will be able to cultivate with this master? If this junior does not have any skills, I will also be disgracing master." Xiaohua originally wanted to berate him, but after listening to his soft words and his bashful appearance, he couldn't help but feel both angry and amused. He had only followed him for a few days, yet he was already thinking about his cultivation method. How could this be possible? Thinking for a moment, Xiaohua said with a smile, Of course, this old man can teach you my methods. However, these are all virgin methods. If it is not an unbroken virgin cultivation, then it is that one cannot get close to women after cultivation. Do you want to learn? Master, no way? There's such a taboo? The black bear spirit blinked in disbelief. Xiaohua pointed at Yuanya and said, Look at Yuanya. He was earlier than you. Why did this old man not take him as a disciple? Because he has always been thinking about this channeling princess. Once the two are in love, there will be heavenly lightning and earth fire. His Tao foundation will be destroyed. Why should this old man take him? Look at Louis. He is an unbroken virgin, so this old man will teach him some methods. Master, you can pick the unimportant ones to teach to this junior. The black bear spirit said with a smile. Xiaohua was too lazy to waste words with him. He waved his hand and said, Wait until you have merit in the future. Then Xiaohua stepped on the leopard. The leopard flew into the air. Xiaohua stood on the back of the leopard and looked at the side of Black Cloud Ridge where the black clouds were. Then he looked away. He kicked the leopard and the leopard obediently flew towards Black Wind Ridge. Xiaohua ordered as he flew, Take your subordinates and clean this place. Then bring the channeling princess and the others to this old man's cave. Yes, master. The black bear spirit respectfully answered, and bowed to send Xiaohua off. Since Xiaohua had left, Xiao Jian was not willing to stay. He looked deeply at Yuanya, who was standing near the channeling princess with the demonic hammer, and then at the scarf on the channeling princess' face. He channeled his power and followed Xiaohua. Warrior. When Xiaohua left, the situation relaxed. The channeling princess looked at Yuanya, who was staring at her, and said in a low voice, Is this master's name Xiaohua? -12. Chapter 3366. Yes, it is Xiaohua, Immortal Xiaohua. Yuanya was nervous and stuttered. Then, what is his background? How many years has he been in Black Cloud Ridge? The channeling princess asked after a moment of hesitation. Hearing the channeling princess ask about Xiaohua's background, how could Yuanya dare to say? He hurriedly waved his hand and said, This one does not dare to discuss this matter behind his back. If you are interested, you can ask Immortal Xiao directly. He is very amiable and will not blame you. Amiable? The channeling princess had a bitter smile. How could the word amiable describe a Taoist cultivator who raised his hand and killed people with poison? Warrior, what is your name? The channeling princess asked again. This one is called Yuanya. Yuanya hurriedly answered, looking slightly bashful. Hearing this, the channeling princess' heart relaxed. This name was unfamiliar, and she did not have any reaction when she heard it. It seemed that she had never seen him before. Your Highness! Granny Ji hurriedly said in a low voice. Now that the pursuers of Bronze Pillar Country have been killed, we do not need to go to Black Cloud Ridge. Also, this Black Cloud Ridge is very close to Bronze Pillar Country. After the king of Bronze Pillar Country knows that the heavy armored soldiers have been killed, he will be furious and send troops to attack. This is not a safe place. This old one suggests that your highness should hurry to Jiasa country? Haha, no matter, the channeling princess said with a smile. If I am not wrong, this immortal Xiaohua must be Father King's good friend in the past. Maybe he has some agreement with Father King. This one has to go see this Taoist and ask what arrangements Father King has made for this one. But Granny Ji bit her lip and was about to persuade when the black bear spirit called out from the sky. Listen, Master has orders for you to ask questions in front of the abode. All of you, come with me so that you can personally thank my master for his kindness. Humph. Granny Ji was slightly dissatisfied and snorted coldly. There were not many deserters in Jian country to begin with. After this battle, more than 60% were lost, especially among the hundreds of Tao soldiers. Now there were only 5 left. These 5 cultivators were full of admiration for Xiaohua's strength. When they heard the black bear spirit's command, they immediately flew into the air and stood beside the black bear spirit. Humph! Qianli looked at the 5 people and snorted coldly like Granny Ji. Then he looked at the Chanling princess and waited for her to speak. The Chanling princess smiled faintly and waved her hand. This princess is going to thank Taoist Xiao. Black Wind King, please lead the way. At this moment, the black bear spirit was full of himself. He was no longer as timid as before. He waved his hand and said, "Ha ha ha, all of you, come with me." Under the black bear spirit's orders, over 100 lesser demons were left behind to clean up the corpses. The other lesser demons followed the black bear spirit back to the Black Wind Ridge in high spirits. Just as the black bear spirit left, a feather about a foot long flashed out of the black clouds at the spot where Xiaohua's gaze had stopped. Its sharp gaze swept over the corpses in the swamp one last time. It flapped its wings slightly and flew in a different direction from Black Wind Ridge. The Chanling princess was very excited, as though she had escaped a calamity. Of course, anyone who was able to escape from a situation of certain death would do the same. However, the Chanling princess was different from other people. The Black Cloud Ridge was a place where monsters roamed in the eyes of ordinary people. It was also a place of death in the eyes of ordinary people. As the princess of Jiang country, the Chanling princess had heard of the rumors, stories, and even infamy of the Black Cloud Ridge. She had been curious about the Black Cloud Ridge for a long time. She had wanted to barge in and take a look countless times. Today, she was finally here. After being reborn from the dead, she was here, especially under the guidance of the Black Cloud Ridge demons. Looking at the ordinary mountains and stones of the Black Cloud Ridge, the Chanling princess felt they were different from the outside. Granny Ji even said several times to stop and take care of the eagle feather arrow on her shoulder. She did not agree and only cut off the arrow's shaft that was exposed outside the peach-red armor. However, what made the Chanling princess slightly uneasy were 2 different gazes. One was naturally the black bear spirit. This guy flew in front of her and occasionally turned his head. When his gaze landed on the Chanling princess, he appeared extremely wretched. The Chanling princess felt this gaze was sharper than the eagle feather arrow. It didn't just pierce through her peach-red armor, it could also pass through the scarf covering her face. Once she sensed this kind of gaze, the Chanling princess could not help but have goosebumps on her skin. It was as though thousands of disgusting flies were crawling on her body. Under this gaze, the Chanling princess felt she had become a piece of tender pork rib giving off the fragrance of oil. The other gaze naturally belonged to Yuanya. This person was being carried in the air by the other bear spirit. He also occasionally looked at the Chanling princess. Yuanya's gaze was completely different from the black bear spirit's. His gaze made the Chanling princess feel a kind of stability, a kind of tranquility. It was as though with this gaze, all the difficulties in the world would vanish. Under this gaze, she would have the most solid support. Of course, the Chanling princess could not bear the heat in his eyes. She found it strange. The scarf on her face was a special kind of magic artifact. Ordinary people could not see through it even with the clear eyes art. How could this brave warrior see her true appearance? Damn it! Granny Ji detected the black bear spirit's gaze and urged the black horse to stand in front of the Chanling princess. The black bear spirit bared his teeth and smiled. A blood-red tongue licked the corner of his mouth. Then he smiled inexplicably. Granny Ji shrunk back in fear as though the tongue had already licked her neck. Lecher! One of the female guards of the Chanling princess also discovered Yuanya's gaze. She scolded and stood on the other side of the Chanling princess. But to the female general's surprise, Yuanya's gaze was still looking in that direction. He did not dodge or even blink, as though she did not exist. This person doesn't know some weird eye-clearing technique, does he? The female general muttered. Could it be that he can see the princess's appearance? Humph, this girl's appearance cannot attract your gaze? Seeing Granny Ji and the female general stand in front of her, the Chanling princess smiled slightly. Warmth rose in her heart. A friend in need was a friend indeed. Maybe these people had been loyal to Jiang country in the past, but now, they were using their lives to protect her. The Chanling princess naturally knew about returning the favor. When she reclaimed her country, She would not treat these followers unfairly. Thinking of reclaiming her country, the channeling princess panicked again. She wanted to grow wings and fly to Xiaohua's residence to personally ask about the present situation of Jiang country. Fortunately, the delicate channeling princess did not grow ugly wings. The black horse stepped on the clouds and came to Xiaohua's crude residence in less than 15 minutes. Looking at the newly created cave, the channeling princess had a knowing smile on her face as the rocks and soil piled up outside were still soft. Clearly, Xiaohua was the backup arranged by the king of Jiang country. However, due to some changes, he had settled down at Black Wind Ridge. It was not that Xiaohua had not received the message she had just sent, but that the black bear spirit had been delayed. Little ones, put these people here. Go back quickly. Old master's residence is clean. Do not stay here. The black bear spirit waved his hand and shouted to the little Yao. Yes, yes. These little demons could be said to be worshipping Xiaohua right now. Xiaohua's sacred art was much more powerful than the great King Wancho's. Hearing the black bear spirit's words, he immediately trembled in fear and hurriedly put down the people and horses of Jianghua and left in a hurry. Also, bury all those people for me. No one can eat them. The black bear spirit seemed to think of something and shouted. Old master does not let us eat people. We have to remember. Those horses, birds, they can go with wine. Yes, we know. The little Yao agreed. Hearing this, the channeling princess was relieved. She seemed to think of something and hurriedly shouted. Right, Black Wind King, you have to leave behind those people's things. This palace has use for them in the future. Unfortunately, the black bear spirit raised an eyebrow and looked up and down at the channeling princess. He sneered and said, Little girl, you won't even let me see your face. Why should I listen to you? Also, even if those things are left behind, they belong to old master. What do they have to do with you? Audacious servant. Granny Ji was unhappy and scolded. You do not need to bow to the princess. Your service in saving the emperor will be recorded in the palace records. But if you are proud of your service now, what will happen in the future? Old beggar. The black bear spirit's gaze was like a knife as he looked up and down at Granny Ji. He said with a smile, This old man's service is not up to you to decide. This old man does not care if it is recorded in the palace records. While old master does not let this old man eat human flesh, he does not stop this old man from getting close to women. You are old, but your skin is not bad. Are you interested in looking at the moon tonight, talking about dreams and love? Ah? Granny Ji's eyes widened. She was tongue-tied and her face was red. She did not know how to respond. Ha! The black bear spirit ignored her and laughed as he entered the cave. Another sentence floated out. Damn it, a thick-skinned old beggar is not as good as a phoenix. This old man has no choice but to talk about love with you. You. Granny Ji almost fainted from anger. She pointed at the cave with trembling arms. Unfortunately, a boy with delicate features walked out from where she was pointing. He was actually holding a horsetail whisk in his hand. He stood in front of the cave and shouted, Master has orders. Bury the bodies of the pursuers from the Bronze Pillar country. Take care of the horses and birds on Black Wind Ridge. Send everything else here without delay. -12. Chapter 3367. Then the boy stared at the princess of Changling and said, The princess of Jiang country and the commander will enter the cave to see the master. The others can set up camp nearby. Rebel, rebel! Granny Ji was already dizzy from anger. Seeing Xiaohua's presence, she trembled and screamed. Which family's master is he? He dares to put on airs in front of the princess. Who is the master of Jiang country? The boy was naturally Louis. He looked Granny Ji up and down like he was looking at an idiot. He waved his horsetail whisk and said, Brother Ya, you are making trouble for the master. You really don't know your own weight. Go and explain to the master. After saying that, Louis turned around and entered the cave, ignoring the others. Yuanya looked at Granny Ji and didn't know what to say. Hearing Lu Yi's words, he hurriedly entered the cave. Outside the cave, Qianli, Kongli, and the others felt that Granny Ji's words were reasonable. They even had the same thought. The so-called martial Uncle Qi naturally felt quite awkward in his heart. Grandma Ji's words really had the meaning of scolding him indirectly. Of course, they really wanted to be like Lu Yi and look at Granny Ji like she was an idiot. Unfortunately, they had lost this qualification because of their previous escape. While Granny Ji shouted, they still had to enter the cave. The situation was stronger than the person. Seeing the princess of Chanling take Granny Ji and the others into the cave, Sect Uncle Qin gritted his teeth and was about to follow. A disciple next to him hurriedly said in a low voice, "Sect Uncle, Elder Shao, didn't seem to tell us to go in. If we barge in like this, we will make him angry." Sect Uncle Qin did not stop. He looked at the fresh soil above the cave and sighed. "If we don't go in now, I fear we won't have a chance in the future. As for Elder being angry, we have already died once, are we still afraid?" Seeing Sect Uncle Qin quickly walk in, the 4 surviving disciples did not dare to delay. They looked at each other and followed in. The remaining Jiang country's black armor army and the palace maids looked around and started to tidy up, preparing to build a place to rest. The Chanling princess entered the cave and examined it. This cave was not large and had a fresh, earthy scent. It should have been recently created. Xiaohua was sitting cross-legged on a small platform at the head of the cave. On Xiaohua's left hand, Louis stood quietly with a horsetail whisk in his hand. His clever eyes were slightly closed, and he looked very peaceful. The Black Wind King stood proudly at Xiaohua's right hand. Seeing the Chanling princess and the others come in, a hint of a smile appeared on his ugly face. He even licked his rough lips with his bright red tongue. The 2 of them, one active and one still, really did look like they were one and the same. Of course, it would be even better if the Black Bear Spirit's lecherous gaze towards Granny Ji was removed. Xiao Jian and Yuanya were standing at Lu Yi's right hand and were even a few steps away. Xiao Jian's expression was thought-provoking, smiling as he looked thoughtfully at everyone. Yuanya was the same, his gaze occasionally landing on the Chanling princess. Once his gaze landed on the Chanling princess, a smile would appear on his face. This smile looked very satisfied and stable. There were only these few people in the cave. The Chanling princess glanced and understood. She quickly walked to the center of the cave and was about to bow in thanks when the angry Granny Ji hurried next to the Chanling princess. She grabbed the Chanling princess and said, "Your Highness, he is an official of the Jiang family." "How can a master bow to an official?" Before the Chanling princess could speak, Granny Ji said coldly, "Xiaohua, since you are here on the king's orders to wait for Her Highness, why did you neglect your duties? Her Highness sent a message for so long, and you only came out now. The subordinate you sent is so crude and dares to speak like that to Her Highness? Do you still have Jiang country and Her Highness in your heart?" "Granny Ji?" The Chanling princess was slightly embarrassed. She hurriedly waved her hand and said, "Taoist Xiao has done very well. This palace was saved by Taoist Xiao. This palace is not neglecting my duties." "You are too serious." "Haha." Xiaohua understood and said with a smile, "The message Princess speaks of is the one sent to the back mountain of Black Cloud Ridge? This old man saw that thing, but it did not seem to be sent to this old man. Also, according to this old man's consciousness, that thing is a meat bun thrown at a dog, it cannot be returned. Do not think about this in the future." "Ah? This is true?" Not just the Chanling princess was stunned, even the Black Bear Spirit paled. "Old master, what do you mean? What is in the back mountain of Black Cloud Ridge? Could it be that this girl has subordinates?" "Haha, not just this girl's subordinates." Xiaohua sneered. "There are many people's subordinates. This Black Cloud Ridge is not the Black Cloud Ridge you know." Damn it. The Black Bear Spirit was timid but not stupid. He understood many things in a moment, and almost hit his head with his hand. This old man thought that Copper Pillar Country, Jiasa Country, and Jiang Country were afraid of my Black Cloud Ridge and did not dare to encircle us. So, they have other plans. We are just a cover for them? Yes. Xiao Hua pointed at the channeling princess and said, Is this not a living example? If Jiang country did not have plans in Black Cloud Ridge, how could they let the princess of Jiang country escape to Black Cloud Ridge? However, the king of Jiang country miscalculated. His secret hand became someone else's secret hand. If not for you, the Black Wind King, here, this girl would have become a corpse long ago. Isn't this all due to Old Master's efforts? The Black Bear Spirit hurriedly said with a smile. This little one just strolled in front of the formation a few times. Xiao Hua's words were clear. The Channeling Princess, Granny Ji, and the others paled. They finally knew that Xiao Hua was not an official of Jiang country as they thought. Granny Ji even turned to look at Sect Uncle Qin, wanting to know if he knew Xiao Hua. This little girl greets Taoist Xiao. The Channeling Princess did not dare to hesitate and hurriedly bowed. This one thanks Taoist Xiao for saving my life. Your Highness. Granny Ji hurriedly tried to stop her. You are a princess, there is no need for this. Haha, what is a princess? Xiao Jian sneered from the side. This old man used to be the ruler of a country. Ah? Granny Ji was surprised and looked at Xiao Jian. While Xiao Jian looked wretched, he still had the bearing of a ruler. Granny Ji, who was used to the royal family, could see some traces at a glance. No need. Xiao Hua ignored Granny Ji and Xiao Jian. He lifted the channeling princess up and said with a smile, Saving you is fate, no need to thank me. Taoist Elder. Granny Ji took her gaze away from Xiao Jian and looked at Xiao Hua. She was very puzzled. At this time, she was the oldest of the survivors of Jiang country. If the channeling princess could not speak, she did not mind speaking. This old woman is puzzled. Taoist Elder, and we do not know each other, but you killed hundreds of soldiers of the Bronze Pillar country for us, including a scholar. Don't talk about fate. This old woman just wants to know, we are all people of a fallen country. What benefits does saving us bring to Taoist Elder? And this? Taoist Elder also said that he used to be the ruler. Does Taoist Elder have any plans? Granny, do not be so rude. The channeling princess reproached. Taoist Xiao is a great person. This one is overjoyed to be saved by him. If Taoist Xiao has any requests, this one will agree to Taoist Zhao's request. After speaking, the channeling princess looked at Xiao Hua. She seemed to want to know Xiao Hua's goal. This old man has his reasons for waiting for you, Xiao Hua said with a smile. Also, Your Highness Princess does have fate with this old man. For this fate, this old man is willing to help Your Highness revive your country. Hiss. The channeling princess inhaled sharply and looked up and down at Xiao Hua. A moment later she gritted her teeth and said, If Elder can help this one revive my country, this one is willing to be a slave or a servant. Ha! Xiao Hua shook his head. Your Highness Princess misunderstands. You have fate with this old man because of Yuanya. If not for Yuanya, this old man would not have fate with you. Yuanya? The channeling princess knew who Yuanya was now. She looked strangely at Yuanya, who was standing below Xiao Jian. This one does not understand the meaning of Taoist Elder's words. And, all of you can leave. Xiao Hua glanced at the crowd. This old man has some secrets to discuss with Your Highness Princess. Your Highness. Qianli and the others naturally could not listen to Xiao Hua and looked at the channeling princess. All of you can leave. The channeling princess knew the answer was about to be revealed and said with a smile, This is Taoist Zhao's cave residence. There is probably no safer place in the hidden immortal continent than here, right? Do not worry. No, Granny Ji said urgently. This old servant watched Your Highness grow up and will not leave Your Highness for a moment. Hearing that Granny Ji had watched the channeling princess grow up, Xiao Hua nodded and said, Perfect, you can stay as well. Less than 5 minutes after entering the cave residence, before they could say anything, they were thrown out. But no one dared to complain. The female generals gathered together and looked around, whispering to each other. Marshal Uncle Qin took out a few medicinal pills and distributed them to the 4 of them. After swallowing, the 5 sat cross-legged and adjusted their breathing to heal. Seeing everyone leave, the channeling princess said with a smile. Daoist Xiao, if you have any secrets, you can speak now. Granny Ji watched this one grow up and has nothing to hide from her. And Xiaohua looked up and said, Yuanya, you can speak. Yes, old master. Yuanya was overjoyed and couldn't help but call out old master. Then, as though he had thought about it countless times, Yuanya took out a sun from his bosom and handed it to the channeling princess. He asked, Your Highness, have you seen this before? -12. Chapter 3368. What is this? The channeling princess looked at the item in Yuanya's hand in bewilderment. This one has never seen this before. The channeling princess showed shock on her face, but Granny Ji next to her stilled slightly. Then a kind of shock appeared in her eyes. But this shock was immediately wiped from her eyes and disappeared. However, although this expression only flashed for a moment, Xiaohua still saw it clearly. Seeing that the channeling princess did not recognize the sun, Yuanya did not ask further. He put the sun next to his mouth. The sorrowful tune that he had to play every day slowly flowed out of the sun, into the ears of the channeling princess, and into her heart. Gradually, 2 drops of sparkling and translucent tears flowed from her eyes and slid down her picturesque and snow-white cheeks. After the song ended, Yuanya carefully asked, Has your Highness heard this song before? Yuanya. The channeling princess took a deep breath and said, This one has never heard this song before. Yuanya's expression immediately became dispirited. But then the channeling princess said, But when Sir plays this song, this one seems to be familiar with it, as though I can hear it every night in my dreams. It really is strange. Of course your Highness is familiar with it, Xiaohua said with a smile. Because you grew up listening to this song. How is that possible? The channeling princess' expression changed greatly. This one grew up in the imperial palace. How can I grow up listening to this kind of song? Xiaohua was not surprised. Yuanya had said that Tia Wu had been taken away when she was 3 years old. How could she have memories of things before that? Yuanya, tell me the origin of the matter? Xiaohua said with a smile. The truth will come out one day. No matter the result, if you do not speak now, you do not need to speak in the future. Yes, old master. Yuanya understood. Holding the sun in his hand, he spoke of the story of Yuanya and Dia Wu, the difficult survival of a youth and a girl in the Xianjie dark forest. Impossible. Before the princess of channeling could speak, Granny Ji spoke first. Your Highness cannot know of these matters, and no one in the palace knows. The old woman had watched Her Royal Highness from the time she was born, to the time she learned how to speak, and then to the time she learned how to walk. The old woman could guarantee that Her Royal Highness had not left the palace since she was young. Yuanya's story is sad and beautiful, but the main character is someone else, and not the channeling princess of Jiang. The channeling princess smiled and said, Sir's story is really beautiful. This one is moved. However, since your Excellency separated from the girl when she was 3 years old, how did your Excellency know what she looked like 10 years later? Why haven't you seen this servant's face yet? How do you know this servant is that person? Your aura, Yuanya said excitedly. When we were at the border between the state of Shi and the state of Copper Pillar, I had already discovered that you were Dia Wu. Yuanya's words were even more preposterous. The channeling princess almost thought that Yuanya was making up a story. But Yuanya's next words stupefied the channeling princess. I remember that when you were young, you were injured by wild wolves in the Wolf Valley. There should be a scar under your left arm. This scar has wolf poison, and will not be easy to remove. If there is no accident, this scar should still be there now. Yuanya stared at the channeling princess with bright eyes. While there was a scarf between them, his gaze seemed to have found the channeling princess' eyes. Ah? The channeling princess was shocked. The scarf covering her face rose and fell violently. At this time, she could only describe it as a storm. She knew in her heart that her skin was incomparably bright and clean, and she had been especially cherished since she was young. In addition, As the princess of the Jiang country, she was doted on by thousands of people, and the other princesses and princes did not receive as much love as she did. Dozens of palace maids served by her side, and their care for her skin was unimaginable to ordinary people. Therefore, even if a pea was placed under 10 blankets, she would still be able to sense it. This silky and milky skin was the pride of the channeling princess. She had worn a scarf for a long time for this purpose. Behind this pride, there was a hint of regret in the princess of channeling. This regret was naturally the scar that Yuanya spoke of. The channeling princess did not know where this scar came from. It had been with her since she was young. When she was older, she begged her father to secretly invite a famous doctor to remove the scar. She had used countless methods, and the effect was obvious. The scar grew smaller. But in the end, the scar could not be completely removed. There was still a faint centipede-like scar left on her arm. Fortunately, this scar was hidden. If not for the palace attendants who served the channeling princess from a young age, they would not know. Other people may not know, but Granny G clearly knew. Granny G's face slightly changed. Although she was trying her best to hide something, her burning eyes still exposed the shock in her heart. "Sir, I fear you are mistaken." The channeling princess took a deep breath and said coolly, "This palace does not have the scar you speak of. How is it possible?" Yuanya jumped up when he heard this and shouted, "How can I be wrong? I raised you from a young age. I am very familiar with your presence. Even if I can't see your face, I'm absolutely certain that you're that little girl. You're my Dia Wu. If you do not believe, you can let me see your left arm." "How dare you!" Granny G shouted angrily. "Is the Princess Jade arm something you can profane?" "Not just the princess. Do you think you can look at the arm of an ordinary woman?" But. Yuanya was furious, but he had nothing to say. Now, he knew the etiquette of this world. While the princess in front of him was the daughter he had raised in the past, she could not casually look at the arm hidden under the pink armor. "Elder." At this time, Xiao Jian looked lovingly at Yuanya and said, "Since the channeling princess is not Yuanya's Dia Wu, then Yuanya must be mistaken. This guy thinks day and night about the child he raised, so it is normal for him to mistake someone else. He was born in the forest and may not know that people are fickle. The grace of raising him, the grace of saving his life, they cannot compare to the wealth of others." Xiao Hua had not expected the channeling princess to be so decisive and refused without hesitation. Looking at the channeling princess' shocked and thoughtful expression under the scarf, Xiao Hua knew that Yuanya's words were true. Maybe the channeling princess had other difficulties? Yuanya. At this time, the channeling princess took 2 steps forward and came in front of Yuanya. She raised her hand and took off the scarf that had been covering her face. On that delicate face, the white and flawless skin, the pair of eyebrows, and the dreamy eyes flashed with sorrow and confusion. At this time, there was a hint of shyness in the confusion. Combined with the redness in the white skin, it was dizzying. The channeling princess opened her cherry lips and said in a heavenly voice, "Sir is speaking of Dia Wu's childhood. Even if this one is Dia Wu, who can remember things from before the age of 3? Especially now that my Jiang country has been destroyed, this one's father and mother are most likely dead. It is impossible to find someone who can prove what you say." Granny G watched this one grow up. If even she says this has never happened, then this really may not have happened. No, it is definitely you. Yuanya looked at the channeling princess. That face was almost one with the image in his mind. He said word by word, "I will not be wrong. Sir's words are useless." The channeling princess blushed again. "This one is the princess of a country. How can this one be trapped in the forest as you say? If this one had such an encounter, it would have been recorded in the national canon. How can this one not know? What is recorded in the national canon is all about the grandiose and glossy appearance of peace. It is all about the benevolence and nobility of the royal family. How can all the darkness and filth be written in it?" Xiao Jian said coldly. "There is no one who understands this matter better than this old man. To say nothing of anything else, Will your king record the hidden hand of Black Cloud Ridge in the national canon? The Changeling princess was not surprised. She looked deeply at Xiao Jian and said with a smile, "This one comes from the imperial family, but I have never been the king. I have never held royal power. How can I know this? Taoist elders' teachings are wrong." Looking at the Changeling princess' gaze, Xiao Jian smiled faintly. He did not lower himself to her level and did not speak. But the Changeling princess moved her gaze from Xiao Jian to Yuanya, whose face was slightly red. She said seriously, "This one still wants to ask, sir, why are you searching so hard for Diao Wu? If this one is Diao Wu, what do you want to do?" This? The Changeling princess' words hit the nail on the head. Yuanya stilled. A hint of confusion flashed through his eyes. Yes, why was he looking for Diao Wu? So what if he recognized Diao Wu now? He had treated Diao Wu as his family, but he had never thought that Diao Wu would leave him and live a happier life. She had even become a princess. What was the meaning in disturbing Diao Wu's life for no reason? Was it because of that obsession of his? This moment of stimulation was stronger than Xiao Jian's years of education. Yuanya looked straight at the Changeling princess. The Changeling princess did not back down. She also looked into Yuanya's eyes. After 15 minutes, Yuanya sighed and said, "Your Highness is right. That Diao Wu is just a child. She cannot know her own experiences. Those are just a dream to her. This one's insistence is selfish and unfair to Diao Wu. From now on, this one will not do such a senseless thing." -12. Chapter 3369. It is good that sir can think this way. The Changeling princess smiled sweetly and said, "This palace is also happy for that Diao Wu. Of course, this palace also wishes that I was that Diao Wu. Other than having the love of royal father and royal mother in this world, there is also a warrior like sir to protect my safety. That is this palace's life desire. It is a pity that this palace's home is destroyed and the country is dead. Even if this palace wants to find the truth, it is impossible. Diao Wu, oh no, the Changeling princess." Yuanya looked at the bitterness in the Changeling princess' smile, and his heart ached. He said, "This one originally did not know why I sought Diao Wu. Previously, I just wanted to see her and know that she was safe. But now that I have seen your Highness, this one knows that Diao Wu is this one's favorite. While you do not admit that you are Diao Wu, and do not know if you are Diao Wu, but in this one's heart you are Diao Wu. Your wish is this one's wish. This one knows what you want. This one will do his best to help you restore your country." Yuanya. The Changeling princess' face was red. She looked at Yuanya with tears in her eyes and said, "This is the most delightful thing this one has heard after the country was destroyed." Yuanya grinned. Xiao Jian looked down on him more than when he was hiding in a tree and watching Xiao Hua practice. Damn it, the Changeling princess did not say anything, and this guy is carrying the burden of restoring the country. Do you think that restoring the country is child's play? This one is your master. This one has not restored my country yet. Why do you not know how to help this one? It is a pity that restoring the country is not something that can be accomplished with just a few words. While you are brave, you are just a talented general." The Changeling princess sighed. "This one understands your intentions. This one really wishes that she was Diao Wu." He. Yuanya smiled slightly and pointed at Xiao Hua. "This one does not have the power to help you restore your country, but Taoist Xiao does. He is the most benevolent, and has great abilities. Not to mention helping you restore your country, even helping you kill the Copper Pillar State would be easy." "Really?" The Changeling princess showed joy on her face. She turned to look at Xiao Hua. "Immortal Elder, this servant knows that your powers are boundless, but this servant has nothing on me right now. I only have dozens of personal guards, and do not dare to make any promises. Furthermore, I may not be the Diao Wu that Yuanya spoke of, so I really don't dare to ask Senior Immortal to help. Now that I've heard Yuanya's words, Senior Immortal is so merciful, then I implore Senior Immortal to stand up for my Jiang family, help me sweep away the strong enemies of Jiang country, and return my Jiang family's country. This? Xiao Hua watched with interest as Yuanya and Dia Wu recognized each other. He had not expected such a change to occur. Xiao Hua had thought about helping the channeling princess restore her country, but when he thought about how this was a battle between countries, what was there for him, a cultivator, to get involved? He had given up. Now that the channeling princess had spoken, he did not know how to answer. Immortal Elder. Seeing Xiao Hua hesitate, the channeling princess no longer had any misgivings. She knelt on the ground and cried, "This servant is a lonely woman now. This servant does not dare to speak of reviving the country. However, this servant's father rules the country with virtue, and Mother Empress is the ruler of the world. This servant feels that my Jiang country is 100 times stronger than the Copper Pillar State. However, this kind of Jiang country was actually destroyed by the Copper Pillar State. I am unwilling to accept this. Even if Immortal Elder cannot help this servant restore the country, please take into account that this servant may be Dia Wu, and help this servant get revenge. For this servant's father who worked day and night for this servant." The channeling princess knelt down. Granny Ji naturally could not stand and hurriedly knelt on the ground. Yuanya also came to join in the fun. He knelt next to the channeling princess and said, "Taoist elder, please be merciful. How pitiful is the channeling princess. Can't you help her? This servant is willing to work like an ox or a horse to repay Taoist elder's favor." "Damn it, Yuanya, you are this old man's disciple. If this old man does not speak, how can you work like an ox or a horse for Elder Xiao?" Xiao Jian complained inside for a long time and finally cursed. Yuanya scratched his head and said with a smile, "Yes, master, then in the next life." Xiao Hua wryly smiled. He waved his sleeve and helped everyone up. "All of you get up. It is not impossible for me to avenge you. This old man is now an enemy of the Bronze Pillar country. Killing one is killing 10 is also killing. However, this old man does not understand the matter of restoring the country. This matter needs to be considered. This old man cannot agree to you so easily. Many thanks, Immortal Elder." The channeling princess was overjoyed when she heard this. She said to Yuanya, "Many thanks for Sir's plea. If Sir does not mind, can this servant call you brother and sister?" "Of course." Yuanya was overjoyed. Just as he was about to agree, Louis hurriedly called out from in front of Xiao Hua, "Brother Ya, you can call each other brother and sister, but not in name." "Why?" Yuanya was puzzled and looked at Louis. At the side, the channeling princess blushed and said in a low voice, "This servant can call you brother Ya. Then what should I call you?" Yuanya smiled and rubbed his hands. He did not know what to call the channeling princess. "Nonsense, of course it is Sister Qing." The black bear spirit finally spoke from the side after being stifled for a long time. The channeling princess glared at the black bear spirit and said in a low voice, "In the imperial palace, father calls this little sister channeling. Brother calls this little sister Wame. However, brother Ya does not have the throne, so you can call me channeling." "And then channeling," Yuanya said with a smile. In reality, he still called Yuanya Diawu in his mind. "Brother Ya, this little sister's matter is entrusted to brother." The channeling princess bowed and said. Yuanya's arm trembled slightly. He helped the channeling princess up and said, "Do not worry, this brother will do his best to help you restore the country." "Little brat." Xiao Jian looked helplessly at Yuanya and cursed inwardly. He said it was enough to help her get revenge. Xiao Hua was just saying it, and did not care, restore the country. Thinking of this, Xiao Jian looked at the channeling princess and frowned slightly. "Xiao Jian." Just as Xiao Jian's thoughts wandered, Xiao Hua's voice sounded. "What do you think should be done?" "Senior." Xiao Jian raised his head and said without hiding anything, "This matter involves the fate of an entire country. It's not a child's play. I didn't think about it carefully before. Please give me some time to think about it." "All right," Xiao Hua nodded and said, "Think carefully here. This old man will listen to your opinion first. Then he said to the channeling princess, "Channeling, you can leave. First clean up the arrow wounds on your body. When this old man has a plan, I will answer your request." The channeling princess was very disappointed, but she knew that Xiao Hua would not casually agree to this matter. She forced a smile, bowed and left with Granny Ji. "Old master." When the channeling princess and the others disappeared from the door, Louis said with a frown, "This channeling princess does not seem appropriate." "Oh? Is that so?" Xiao Hua said with a smile. "What do you feel is inappropriate?" "This lowly one's intuition is that this channeling princess is Dia Wu." Louis felt injustice for Yuanya. When Brother Ye spoke of the wound, the channeling princess' tone changed slightly, and this lowly one felt her heart beat violently. It can be said that Brother Ye's words smashed into her heart like a boulder. This wound must still be on her arm. We only need to examine it to know. Unfortunately, it's impossible for us to examine the most direct evidence. Yuanya bit his lips. He seemed to be listening, but also not. No one knew what he was thinking. Also, what this lowly one does not understand is that since the channeling princess wants to revive the country, she should admit that she is Dia Wu. As long as he was Dia Wu, Brother Ye would help him with all his might. Only then would Master help him. She was so ambiguous and didn't even try to deny it. What was she trying to do? Fortunately, it was Brother Ye. If it was this lowly one, forget it. What restoration of the country? Even if it was revenge, it had nothing to do with this lowly one. Louis pouted and said coldly. His horsetail whisk also drew a line in the air. Yuan Ye's soul returned and he said softly, "Taoist priest, please don't blame Dia Wu. She has undergone such a huge change, from a life of luxury to a life of solitude, from the daughter of a country to a life of solitude. Her father and mother are probably no longer in this world, and all the love they had for her has turned into smoke. No one would be able to get used to it, and everyone would start doubting life. She denied it completely and then left some leeway. This should be the change in mood." "Oh?" Xiao Hua looked in surprise at Yuanya. He had expected Yuanya to defend the channeling princess, but he had not expected Yuanya's defense to be so direct. Also, his words were so similar to ordinary people, and not like Yuanya who had come out of the forest. Could it be that women are the key to men's maturity? Xiao Hua thought inside. Xiao Jian taught Yuanya for many years, but did not let him enter the world of ordinary people. This Dia Wu only saw him for half a day, and he has improved so much. Actually, there's no need to blame the channeling princess. Xiao Jian opened his eyes and said, "The princess of channeling is the last daughter of Jiang country. When Jiang country was destroyed, she did not live for herself. She doesn't just have the blood of her entire family on her shoulders, she also has the pressure of reviving her country. What she considers is not something we can imagine. She has to consider who can help her, who has the greatest value." Speaking of this, Xiao Jian glanced at Xiao Hua and said, "Of course, Taoist Xiao has the identity of Old Master, and has the greatest value, and the greatest ability. But he has nothing to do with the channeling princess, and Taoist Xiao does not seem to have any intentions of helping her establish a country." -12. Chapter 3370. Speaking of this, Xiao Jian's gaze sharpened. He glanced at Yuanya and said, "Reviving the country is not child's play. It involves many things. If there is not enough reward, the Taoist will not act. Next, the channeling princess will choose someone close to Elder Xiao. The Black Wind King? The channeling princess does not dare to have a connection with a demon. Louis? While he is Elder Zhao's servant, Louis has never seen the channeling princess and will not speak for her. As to Yuanya, he is not the Taoist's disciple. While the channeling princess can establish a close relationship with Yuanya, once this relationship is established, he will not be able to find a better relationship. Therefore, the channeling princess does not dare to rashly admit it. She only dared to bet on Yuanya after observing. As expected of someone who had once been a monarch, Xiao Jian had a good grasp of people's hearts. In just a few words, he had almost completely peeled off the Changeling princess' thoughts. He described the feeling of loss and gain very vividly. Xiaohua nodded as he listened. Of course, Xiaohua did not blame the Changeling princess. People were so greedy. Even if he had saved the other could not believe him unconditionally. Fine, no need to speak of this. Xiaohua waved his hand. It does not matter if the Changeling princess is Diao Wu or not. Left and right Yuanya thinks she is Diao Wu. Just now, this old man agreed to take revenge. Now tell me, can we help her revive her country? How confident are you? Yes, elder. Xiao Jian's expression changed. He bowed and said, This junior has already considered whether we can help the Changeling princess revive her country, and should help her. And how do you say it? Xiaohua nodded faintly as though this was not outside of his expectations. Didn't the Taoist say it before? The Taoist is going to establish a Taoist sect on the hidden Immortal continent. Help the Taoist sect rise with your own power. Xiao Jian cleared his throat and said, Since the Taoist is going to establish a Taoist sect, then you must have help. This junior and the others can only be considered little cats and dogs. We cannot achieve great things or be of great use. Even the many small demons of the Black Wind Ridge could not be placed on the stage. Senior needed more Taoist cultivators. Since hidden Immortal continent doesn't allow Tao sects to be established, Senior can only control a country to attract more Tao sects cultivators and help Princess Ling establish her own country. This is one of the steps of Senior establishing Tao sects. It will help Tao sects achieve their wish of establishing Tao sects. What I just said is one of them. Xiao Jian then pointed outside the cave and said, Jianghua originally had a Tao cultivator senior. Look, that Tao cultivator senior was already killed by the Confucian cultivator invited by Tong Zhuguo. As for the Tao cultivator of Jianghua, Tong Zhuguo will not be able to get rid of him in a short period of time. Furthermore, the Tao sect resources that the Jiang country had accumulated over the years were also unable to be accepted by the Copper Pillar state. Therefore, if Senior uses this opportunity to assist Princess Ling in reviving her country, then all of these resources will belong to Senior. This is an extremely good opportunity for Senior to make a name for himself in hidden Immortal continent. This is the second reason. There's a third one? Xiaohua asked with a smile. Of course. Xiao Jian said with a smile. Senior is around third level essence power right now. Didn't that Left General Shueping say it before? If our Tao sect cultivators want to cultivate to the extreme, then we must have the support of a sect or a country. Senior will assist Princess Ling in establishing her country. You will naturally be the state teacher of Jianghua in the future. Jianghua will support Senior's cultivation with the power of a country. Isn't that better than being the right general of a commander-in-chief? If Senior needs anything, feel free to inform the king of the Jiang country. The king will definitely go through the auction of the Jiang country, and even send people to other countries to search for Senior and supply Senior as much as possible. This is extremely useful for Senior's cultivation. Is there a fourth reason? Xiaohua asked. As long as there are 3 reasons for anything, then you can do it without worry. Xiao Jian said with a smile. Also, there is a 4th reason for this matter. Oh? What is the 4th reason? Xiaohua was interested. This Changeling princess is clearly Diao Wu. If you want Yuanya to be at ease, and not let Yuanya die in front of the 2 armies, Taoists can only assist Princess Ling in reviving her country. Even this junior cannot slack off. Xiao Jian said with a smile. Also, since Senior has promised to take revenge and kill the king of Copper Pillar country, it is almost the same as helping Pig Jiang revive. This old man did not say I would help her kill the king. Xiaohua said with a smile. The one who killed the king of Jianghua was the Confucian cultivator of Copper Pillar country, right? This old man can just kill the Confucian cultivator of Copper Pillar country. Taoist, this is Ya's happiness for the rest of his life. Won't you help him? Xiao Jian glanced at Yuanya. That Yuanya immediately understood and hurriedly walked over, kneeling. Taoist, Diao Wu's past is pitiful. Now, she is like this small one, without the care of her parents. No one understands the feeling of loneliness better than this small one. If you don't help her, then how can a weak girl take revenge? How can she fulfill her heart's desire? This little one begs Senior, you can just casually stretch out your hand and fulfill her lifelong wish. Get up, let this old man think about it. Xiaohua waved his hand, indicating for Xiaohua to get up. He then pointed at the leopard in front of him and said, This leopard is not an ordinary one. You do not know how to ride the clouds, so it is inconvenient for you to move. I will give this leopard to you. Huh! Yuanya was startled. He glanced at the leopard and immediately said gratefully, Thank you, Taoist, for your generous gift. If I can help you, this old man will try his best to help you. You don't have to worry about that. Xiaohua laughed. As for how to control this leopard, you can ask Black Bear. Yes, master, this little one understands. Black Bear Spirit hurriedly agreed. The two of you can leave as well. Xiaohua was about to wave his hand to signal the two of them to leave, but suddenly thought of something and asked, Black Bear, can you use my Dao Sex pills for your cultivation? If it's useful, you can tell this old man. Old Master, Black Bear Spirit stuttered, and anxiously asked, Do you have the Emperor's Punishment pill? If you do, you can give me half of it. What is the Emperor Punisher pill? Xiaohua shook his head. This old man has a lot of pills, but there is no Emperor Punisher pill that you speak of. If you have any pill formulas or something like that, feel free to show them to this old man. Black Bear Spirit was originally pleasantly surprised, but now he was dejected, and laughed bitterly. Master, this little one is a demoness. Do you have a Dao Sex pill formula? Then wait a moment. Xiaohua laughed. Louis, call in the 5 cultivators of the Jiang country. Yes, master. Now, Louis didn't call him Taoist priest Xiaohua anymore. Instead, he called him master very smoothly. Not long after, Marshal Uncle Qin brought 4 people in quickly. The moment he arrived in front of Xiaohua, he immediately knelt on the ground and greeted Senior. Do you know what the Huangxing pill is? Seeing Black Bear Spirit anxiously rubbing his hands at the side, Xiaohua asked straightforwardly. Huangxing pill? Marshal Uncle Qin was startled. He looked at the leopard that had already walked in front of Yuanya, and asked curiously. That's a spirit pill for the demon pet to consume. Senior, give me the pill formula. Xiaohua did not hold back and ordered. The more impolite Xiaohua was, the happier Marshal Uncle Qin was. He anxiously took out a jade eye from his waist and handed it over respectfully. Xiaohua waved his hand and received it out of thin air. After sending it into the space, not long after, he laughed. So it's this thing, this old man has it. As he spoke, he flipped his hand, and a few black spirit pills that did not have any medicinal fragrance appeared in his palm. He threw them to Black Bear Spirit and said, Today you have worked hard and done a great job. This is your reward. Look at which little demon of Black Wind Ridge has contributed a lot. You can also reward them. 4. 4th grade spirit pill? Seeing the Huangxing Dan flying through the air, Marshal Uncle Qin's eyes shrank and his heart jumped. He could clearly see that the Huangxing Dan that Xiaohua had given to Black Bear Spirit was at least of the 4th grade. How could Black Bear Spirit understand all this? He took the Huangxing Dan and sniffed it, muttering, Master, are you lying to me? This pill has no taste, and it doesn't have any color. Can it be used? Great King! Great King! Marshal Uncle Qin almost cried. He anxiously said, Senior gave me a 4th grade immortal pill. I have only read about it in the records of the founder. I have never seen it with my own eyes. If you don't want it, I have 2 Huangxing Dan that the founder refined. I can exchange it with the Great King. In your dreams. Black Bear Spirit was overjoyed. He glared at Marshal Uncle Qin and bowed to Xiaohua. Many thanks for the reward, master. Then he happily led Yuanya and the leopard out of the cave. You all, get up! Xiaohua saw that Marshal Uncle Qin did not dare to get up and waved his hand to help them up. He asked, What are your names? What Dao technique do you cultivate? Who is the founder that you are waiting for? What is the situation of your lineage now? Senior, my name is Qin Xiaoyao. These are my martial nephews and juniors. Martial Uncle Qin didn't dare to be negligent. He hurriedly bowed and replied. Furthermore, he didn't hide anything from Senior and told Senior everything he knew. Just as Xiaohua had thought, the state teacher of Jiang country was called Qin Haoyue. He was a Dao sect cultivator of the 4th level of essence energy. In the words of the Xiaoyu continent, he was a nascent soul stage master. When Qin Haoyue was still a Jingdan stage cultivator, he met a Confucian scholar with the surname Jiang. Later on, this Confucian scholar had the chance to become the ruler of a country. Thus, he thought of Qin Haoyue of the Dao sect. After finding Qin Haoyue, the two of them discussed and decided that Qin Haoyue would give advice to the Confucian scholar, train the Dao soldiers, and recruit great generals. After several years of war, they finally established the Jiang country beside the Bronze Pillar country and the Jia Sa country. The Confucian scholar was the founding monarch of the Jiang country, and Qin Haoyue was the state teacher of the Jiang country. After Qin Haoyue became the imperial advisor, other than assisting the king of the Jiang country to defend against external enemies and developing the power of the Dao sect, he was mostly provided with resources by the Jiang country to cultivate. After nearly 100 years of bitter cultivation, after the fall of the founding monarch, he finally stepped into the nascent soul stage. -12. Chapter 3371. After Qin Haoyue, Jiang country became even more famous. Previously, there was a Li country next to Jiang country, also a country founded by a Taoist sect. The Li country could not withstand Copper Pillar country's attack and merged into Jiang country. The Li country's national teacher also joined Qin Haoyue as the so-called second national teacher. Copper Pillar country's attack on the Li country was unsuccessful and naturally held hatred. But at that time, Copper Pillar country did not have the confidence to defeat Qin Haoyue and had to give up. The enmity between the two countries started from that day. Now that another 100 years had passed, Qin Haoyue's cultivation had reached a bottleneck, and he was unable to break through for a long time. The national power of the Copper Pillar nation was growing day by day, and with the help of the great artificer and the great martial master of the military school, they had recently launched an invasion of the Jiang country. Especially when Qin Haoyue was surrounded by Confucian cultivator experts and died with hatred. Jiang country lost the protection of the national teacher. Soon, the capital was breached and the imperial palace fell. Other than the princess of Chanling who secretly escaped Jiang country under the cover of Qin Xiaoyao and the other members of the imperial family were all killed. Of course, from the later situation, it seemed that Copper Pillar country had intentionally let the princess of Chanling go. They were using a long line to catch a big fish. Qin Xiaoyao talked endlessly about the history of Jiang country and Qin Haoyue's great achievements. But Xiaohua frowned slightly. He was not interested in these things. What he cared about was what the Jiang country's Taoist sect was like. So he had to wait for Qin Xiaoyao to finish speaking and then ask about the situation in detail. Qin Xiaoyao obviously did not understand what Xiaohua was thinking, but since he was from the Jiang country, he was able to answer Xiaohua's questions with ease. After Xiaohua finished listening, he finally understood that the Dao sect of the Jiang country was actually somewhat similar to the Imperial Thunder sect and other sects on the Dawn Rain continent. However, in the Imperial Thunder sect, the sect master was the leader. All of the orders and important matters of the sect had weight. In the Jiang country, there were two leaders. In the affairs of the country, the king was the leader, issuing decrees to educate the citizens, and the interactions between countries were all led by the king. In the development and affairs of the Dao sect, the imperial advisor was the leader, recruiting disciples, teaching disciples, recruiting Dao soldiers, and training Dao soldiers were all under the responsibility of the imperial advisor. Of course, the national teacher was the national teacher, the teacher of a country, and also the teacher of the king. Sometimes, the national teacher would have some opinions on the affairs of the country. Starting from the second king of Jiang country, when he saw the national teacher Qin Haoyue, he had to perform the etiquette of a disciple. Qin Haoyue was the true ruler of Jiang country. Jiang country was a country, regardless of its size. It was different from the imperial thunder sect. Qin Haoyue could not establish a sect in the hidden immortal continent. He could only spread his branches and leaves within the Jiang country and recruit disciples from the people of the Jiang country. Although these disciples could not serve in the 8 great thunder palaces like the disciples of the imperial thunder sect, the officials of the Jiang country had also provided them with similar positions. They could use the convenience of their position to collect resources for their own cultivation when there was hope for their cultivation. At the same time, they could also enjoy the riches of the mortal world when there was no hope for their cultivation. In fact, from Qin Xiaoyao's mouth, Xiao Hua knew that the imperial advisor Qin Haoyue did not have many direct disciples, and the Jiang country was not big either. The resources that could be provided to Qin Haoyue were already insufficient, and the disciples that could be provided to Qin Haoyue were even more stretched. Therefore, 90% of the Dao sect's power in the Jiang country was a Dao soldier that Xiao Hua had never heard of before. The so-called Dao soldiers were soldiers who had cultivated Dao techniques. Since they were soldiers, then they were not real cultivators. Their purpose in cultivating Dao techniques was to fight. Every soldier, or rather every team of soldiers, practiced the killing Dao technique. Under the leadership of a Dao general, every camp of Dao soldiers practiced several types of Dao techniques that could be used together. And these Dao generals could be Qin Haoyue's junior disciples, or disciples of other sects that had joined the Jiang country. As for the war, other than the Dao soldiers, there were also the battles of ordinary armies. This was different from the great battle of the Dao sword in the Dawn Rain continent. This was because in the army of a country, the number of Dao soldiers was limited, and the number of other armies was even more limited. Only when the ordinary army was unable to determine victory or defeat, or when the ordinary army was defeated, would the Dao soldiers enter the battlefield. Of course, once the Dao soldiers appeared, the end of the war would not be far. Qin Xiaoyao could not be considered a Dao general of the Jiang country. After all, he was Qin Haoyue's junior disciple, and his cultivation was considered profound. He was in charge of guiding the cultivation of the 3 Dao generals, and the left general of the country of Shui Ping, was a typical Dao general. If Xiao Hua was recruited by Shui Ping and became the right general, then he would also be a Dao general of the country of Xi. Of course, other than the Dao generals and Dao soldiers being controlled by the national teacher Qin Haoyue, as mentioned earlier, there were also some important positions in the government of the Jiang country that were controlled by him. However, these positions did not have much weight in the Jiang country, and this should be the result of the compromise between the national teacher and the king. It's really strange. Hearing the end, Xiao Hua frowned. If the hidden immortal continent does not allow the disciples of the Dao sect to establish their own sects, why would they allow the Dao sect to establish their own countries? What's the difference between this and establishing a sect? Other than the fact that the range of disciples recruited was small, there was usually a country lord who restrained each other. It was truly similar to the cultivation sects of the Dawn Rain continent. It is truly more influential than the cultivation aristocratic families. Could it be? Thinking to this point, Xiao Hua was somewhat enlightened. With the king's restraint, the Dao sect is unable to expand? Even the disciples of the Dao sect would sink into the mortal world? The resources of the Dao sect can only be limited to a single country? If the Dao sect wanted to develop, then the country had to expand. Since the country wanted to expand, it would inevitably be resisted by its neighbors. This way, the development of the country would be suppressed, and the development of the Dao sect would also be suppressed. Wasn't this killing 2 birds with 1 stone? Especially since the imperial advisor was restrained by the king, the imperial advisor would not be able to calm his heart and cultivate wholeheartedly. How could he break through? Even a nascent soul-stage cultivator as strong as Qin Haoyue would probably be disturbed by the tens of thousands of affairs in the Jiang country, making it difficult for him to break through the bottleneck. He was even viewed as a thorn in the flesh by the Tong Shugua. Without waiting for him to achieve anything, he would be destroyed by the Confucian cultivators of the Tong Shugua. Damn it, Confucian cultivators are really vicious. Thinking about it, Xiaohua couldn't help but sigh. Seeing the change in Xiaohua's expression, Qin Xiaoyao, who had been observing Xiaohua's expression, clenched his teeth and knelt down on the ground again, shouting, "Senior Xiao, on behalf of my Qin family, I implore Senior to be merciful and use the foundation of my Dao sect to save the power of my Dao sect in Jiang country." Although Jiang country had fallen into the hands of the Tong Zhuge, the power of the Dao sect had not collapsed. If Senior were to make a move, he would definitely be able to gather such power and revive the glory of the Dao sect. If Senior hesitates, Grand Master Qin's hundreds of years of hard work will turn into flowing water. Wouldn't that be a great misfortune for the Dao sect? Furthermore, this junior dares to ask Senior to make a move. The king of Jiang country is benevolent, and has won the hearts of the people in Jiang country. That Tong Zhuge is a military country, and has always been militaristic. If Jiang country falls into the hands of the Tong Zhuge, the taxes will be many times heavier than now. A good Jiang country will definitely be turned into a mess by the Tong Zhuge. The people of Jiang country will definitely be homeless and have no way to make a living. If Senior is willing to take over the position of state teacher of Jiang country, this junior will definitely join Senior's sect and help Senior retract the power of the Dao sect in Jiang country. While Qin Xiaoyao had said it with deep emotions, and had almost sworn an oath, Xiaohua thought of how he had abandoned the princess of Changling and felt slightly uncomfortable. He also understood that Qin Xiaoyao no longer had anyone to rely on. If he did not rely on him, he might not even be able to leave the Black Cloud Ridge. If he could persuade him, not only would his life be saved, his future cultivation would be the same as before. Even looking at the current situation, Xiaohua did not have many people in front of him. If Xiaohua took over the position of state teacher of Jiang country in the future, Qin Xiaoyao could even be said to be one of the top few. Wouldn't he be even more glorious than before? After thinking for a long time, Xiaohua looked at Qin Xiaoyao, whose eyes were filled with endless anticipation, and said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist Qin, do you think this Xiao can take over the position of state teacher of Jiang country?" "Yes." Qin Xiaoyao nodded firmly. "The present situation is very similar to the situation of Grand Master Qin and the founding monarch of Jiang country. You have helped the princess of Changling, and the princess of Changling is the last member of the imperial family of Jiang country. In fact, this junior feels that it is even easier now than before." "But," Xiaohua shook his head, "this old man is not interested in being state teacher, and this old man does not want to use Jiang country for my cultivation. This..." Qin Xiaoyao was a bit hesitant. In fact, as the ruler of a country, his greatest advantage was in the control of cultivation resources. If Xiaohua didn't even care about this, then he really couldn't persuade Xiaohua. Especially now that Jiang country has been defeated, and the capital has fallen. If we want to restore the country, we must reorganize the troops and rebuild the Dao soldiers. Do you think the Copper Pillar country will give us the time? Maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after, the Copper Pillar country will send troops over, and more Confucian experts will come. With just a few of us, how can we be a match for them?" Xiaohua said seriously. "Also, even without these threats, to restore the country, the things we need to do are not things we can do with just a touch of our lips. In truth, this is the greatest reason this Xiao does not want to take over. These trivial matters are too troublesome. This Xiao is not skilled in such trivial matters, and does not want to delay my cultivation." What Xiaohua said was the greatest hesitation in his heart. Taking revenge for the princess of Changling was simple. To put it bluntly, they could just charge into the imperial palace of the Copper Pillar country and kill the monarch. That would end everything. Xiaohua could do it with the concealment arts of the Mo world. But to restore the country and become the state teacher, that was a complicated matter. He did not know when Xiaohua would be able to leave Jiang country. Also, Xiaohua still had worries. That Jiang Luer had been in the space for hundreds of years. If he did not wake her up, Xiaohua would not be at ease. At the star-picking tower auction, Xiaohua's main goal in bidding for the Pegasus was to go to paradise. -12. Chapter 3372. Hearing Xiaohua speak of the worries in his heart, and even faintly reveal the intention of being able to control the state teacher, Qin Xiaoyao couldn't help but be overjoyed. He almost stuttered as he said, Senior, you're thinking too much. You are the imperial tutor. How can you handle all the trivial matters? You only need to designate a disciple, for example, this Taoist sitting in front of you, and let him handle it for you. Also, as the imperial tutor, your greatest use is to resist the challenges of the imperial tutors of other countries, especially when Jiang country has conflicts with other countries. You don't need to act when it rises to the level of a country war. Even, to put it bluntly, you are a deterrent, a country's greatest reliance. You don't need to do anything, just cultivate. The higher your cultivation, the better. Ah, you really are different from the sect master of the Imperial Thunder sect. Xiaohua sighed, and finally understood the other meaning of the imperial tutor. At this time, Xiao Jian's eyebrows involuntarily rose, and he said with a smile, Senior, don't worry. If you are willing to be the imperial tutor, willing to stand up for the channeling princess, willing to revive Jiang country, this junior will shoulder all the miscellaneous matters, and will not let senior worry. And, indeed, this is what you are good at. Xiaohua nodded, and then looked at Qin Xiaoyao and asked, Are you sure that the descendants of Taoist Qin of Jiang country will side with this old man? Senior's cultivation is not inferior to Grandmaster, and Grandmaster does not have any cultivators of the 4th level of essence power. If you go up and call, they would be too happy, right? Qin Xiaoyao naturally did not dare to make a guarantee, and could only answer in such a roundabout way. However, at this point, Qin Xiaoyao hesitated, and said with a smile, Of course, Jiang country has a second imperial tutor, Grandmaster Hong. I don't know if he died in the war. What is Xian Hong's cultivation? Xiaohua's brows furrowed even tighter. Grandmaster Xian Hong should be around the 4th level of essence power? Qin Xiaoyao hurriedly answered. But elder, even if Grandmaster Xian Hong is still alive, his cultivation cannot compare to elder. Jiang country cannot be revived in his hands. The channeling princess needs elder's help. Qin Xiaoyao's answer naturally couldn't satisfy Xiaohua. This was a very important decision. Xiaohua thought for a moment, then waved his hand and said, You can leave. Let this old man think about it. Yes, I understand. Qin Xiaoyao looked at the hesitant Xiao Jian and bowed before leaving with his 4 disciples. Senior. Xiao Jian took a step forward and said in a low voice, This is no small matter. Senior, you really have to consider it carefully. If he wanted to be the imperial advisor of the Jiang country, then the senior would have to walk to the front of the stage. Not only would the Confucian cultivators of the Copper Pillar state and the Jiasa state challenge the senior, even the imperial advisor of the state of Xi and the other countries might have a grudge against the senior. It would be impossible for senior to cultivate in peace. Furthermore, the life and death of the second imperial advisor of Jiangguo was also a troublesome matter. Of course, this junior will not take back what this junior said earlier. This junior can help senior with all the trivial matters. And you can leave as well. Xiaohua nodded. This old man will think about it alone. But before he could finish, footsteps sounded outside the cave. Xiaohua looked up. It was Qin Xiaoyao who had just left. What else do you want? Xiaohua frowned and asked. Qin Xiaoyao walked a few steps quickly and hurriedly said, This junior just walked out of the cave and immediately thought of something. This matter must be reported to senior first. If senior has made a choice, this junior will say it. This will put senior in a passive position. Go ahead and say it. Yes. Qin Xiaoyao carefully replied. This junior remembers hearing Grandmaster say that if a cultivator of the Dao sect wants to take charge of a country, they must first pass a test. After passing this test, they can obtain the recognition of an organization and truly become the imperial advisor. As for what this test is, what this organization is, this junior does not know. Ah? There's such a thing? Xiaohua was startled, and looked at Xiao Jian. Xiao Jian frowned, as if he did not know about this matter. He blinked a few times and shook his head at Xiao Hua. If you don't know, who would know? Xiao Hua asked Qin Xiaoyao. Qin Xiaoyao laughed bitterly and said, Perhaps Ancestor Xianhong knows about this. But Ancestor Xianhong is also in danger. In this way, this junior doesn't know who will know. But this junior can't not tell senior about this. Alright, this old man understands. You can leave now. Xiao Hua waved his hand, indicating for Qin Xiaoyao to leave. Xiao Jian watched as Qin Xiaoyao's figure disappeared, and said thoughtfully, Senior, this junior has never heard the imperial advisor mention this before. However, since Qin Xiaoyao mentioned it now, I'm afraid it's true. Yes, it doesn't matter. Xiao Hua waved his hand. If everything goes smoothly, these difficulties will not be in my eyes in 10 days. Xiao Jian raised his eyebrows and bowed. Junior congratulates Senior on your improvement in cultivation. That's not certain. Xiao Hua waved his hand, and also took out some spirit pills and gave them to Xiao Jian. This is for you. Cultivate after consuming it. I'll have to trouble you in the future. Many thanks, Senior. Seeing Xiao Hua casually take out 3rd or 4th grade spirit pills, Xiao Jian's heart thumped wildly, and he hurriedly took them and said, This junior owes Senior a lot, it's only right for me to exhaust myself for Senior. Go, cultivate well, plan well, this old man will not mistreat you. Xiao Hua nodded. When Xiao Jian started walking, Louis also hurriedly followed Xiao Jian. However, he stopped outside the cave and sat down cross-legged, quietly waiting for Xiao Hua's summons. 3 days passed quickly, and when the red sun rose from the east, Louis called everyone into the cave. Greetings, Master, greetings, Senior. A few respectful greetings resounded in the cave. Xiao Hua listened to them. It didn't take more than 10 days, so he felt like he was a senior. Xiao Hua flicked his sleeve and said with a smile, You all can rise? Thank you, Master. How are the channeling princess injuries? Xiao Hua looked at the nervous channeling princess and asked softly. The channeling princess hurriedly smiled and said, Senior's spirit pills are very effective. Before night fell, this junior's injuries were mostly healed. This junior thanks Senior for his great kindness. Haha, that's good. Xiao Hua waved his hand. If others did not ask for spirit pills, this old man would have almost forgotten about your arrow wound. Right, if you have any needs in the future, you can tell this old man, or Louis. If this old man has it, I can give it to you. Senior. The channeling princess was clever, and had been unable to sleep these past 3 days because she had hoped for Xiao Hua's news. Hearing Xiao Hua say this, how could she not know Xiao Hua's meaning? She asked in disbelief. Has Senior already decided? At this point, she did not dare to ask. Xiao Jian and Qin Xiaoyao's eyes also lit up, excitement rising on their faces as they listened to Xiao Hua's explanation. Yes. Xiao Hua stood up and waved his sleeve. Previously, this old man said that I would establish a sect on the hidden Immortal continent. Also, this old man set up a blood steel in the Copper Pillar country's 7-Yang temple. Helping Jiang country revive is this old man's first step in establishing a sect. If this old man does not help the princess revive Jiang country, who else can I help? As long as the channeling princess does not fear that this old man's help will cause the countries of the hidden Immortal continent to attack, then so what if this old man helps you? This servant thanks Senior for his great kindness. The channeling princess was so happy tears came out of her eyes. She almost fell to the ground again. As long as Elder helps this one recover the country and take revenge for Royal Father, so what if 10,000 countries attack a city, and even the entire hidden Immortal continent as enemies? Haha, there is no need, there is no need. Xiao Jian also smiled. Every year there are at least 3 or 4 sects that establish countries on the hidden Immortal continent. It does not matter if our Jiang country is added or not. As long as Senior Xiao is willing to help, reviving Jiang country is a small matter. This one is also waiting for Senior Zhao's help. And, since we have made such a decision, Xiao Jian, Channeling, and Qin Xiaoyao will have to discuss the details in the future. Xiao Hua nodded and pointed at Qin Xiaoyao. Chanling, you do not need to care about Qin Xiaoyao's previous matter. When a person is in a hopeless situation, if there is a threat of life, they will do their best to grasp it. This is why people cannot drown in the copper basin. This is an instinct. Also, if you have a grudge, the three of you will not cooperate well. It is not beneficial to each other. The Chanling princess sighed and said sincerely, Elder knows that this junior really did hate Taoist Qin a few days ago. Even when he came to visit, he was scolded away by this junior's subordinates women. However, just as senior said, this junior thought clearly yesterday. Since this junior can abandon royal father and royal mother to escape Jiang country, why can't Taoist Qin abandon this junior and escape Black Cloud Ridge? Putting myself in his shoes, there is no dignity in front of death. Many thanks for Princess understanding. Qin Xiaoyao's face was slightly red. What he had done was wrong to the imperial house of Jiang country. Now that the Chanling princess had forgiven him in front of Xiaohua, how could he not be excited? All right, Xiaohua said with a smile. Since the grudge between the two of you is gone, then Chanling, are you satisfied with this old man's arrangements? Good. The Chanling princess nodded. Taoist Qin can contact the forces of Jiang country. Taoist Xiao has rich experience, and can give this servant advice. This servant represents the imperial house of Jiang country. The three of us working together is the best. At this point, the Chanling princess looked at Yuanya next to her and said with a smile, If Brother Ye can be the vanguard general of Jiang country, will the Bronze Pillar country not be destroyed? All right, Xiaohua said with a smile. Yuanya is Xiao Jian's disciple to begin with. Princess Chanling's request, you only need to tell Xiao Jian. But Princess, please do not worry. Xiao Jian said with a smile. Yuanya is a talented general. It will be easy for him to attack cities. -12. Chapter 3373. Seeing that he was able to help Diao Wu, Yuanya couldn't help but grin from ear to ear, laughing foolishly. Also, Xiao Jian, this old man has set up a formation in the shadow of the mountain. This is the way to enter and exit. Take a look. Xiaohua smiled slightly and took out a jade eye from his bosom. He said, If there is anything you do not understand, you can ask me now. Oh? Elder. Xiao Jian was puzzled and said curiously, You have not been cultivating in the past few days? This old man has to go out for a while. While the pursuers of the Copper Pillar country were killed outside Black Cloud Ridge, the traces of the pursuers cannot be completely erased. If the Copper Pillar country wants to pursue the matter, they will come to Black Cloud Ridge, just as we thought. There are many Yao in Black Cloud Ridge, and I fear they do not have the power to fight back against the power of a country. With this formation, all of you can hide inside without worrying about being discovered. Xiaohua explained. Of course, you have to do enough on the surface to make people feel that you have left Black Cloud Ridge to avoid trouble. Xiao Jian took the jade eye and checked with his consciousness. Surprise appeared on his face. He said in shock, Elder, your formation can protect hundreds of little Yao? Of course. Xiaohua smiled and asked in return, Even if it does not work, do you have any other methods? Many thanks, old master. The black bear spirit was overjoyed. He did not think much, but those old bear spirits did. They had been chattering by his ear in the past few days. Now that he heard Xiaohua had plans, he naturally smiled. Immortal Elder is so calculating. The Chanling princess sighed. The most dangerous place is the safest place. Other people will not think that we are hiding in Black Cloud Ridge. Also, Elder's formation is even more wondrous. This one thinks that the Confucian cultivators of the Copper Pillar country will not be able to find us. Xiao Jian beamed. Where is Taoist Elder going? How long will you be gone for? Of course, only Yuan Yao would ask this. How could other people ask Xiaohua such a secret? Xiaohua did not care. He waved his hand and said, Busy yourselves. First, make a plan. Do what you need to do. When this old man returns, I will lead you all to sweep through Copper Pillar Nation. Xiaohua didn't sit down in the first place. At this moment, an auspicious cloud appeared under his feet. It carried Xiaohua and slowly flew out of the cave. I respectfully send you off, master. I hope you return victorious. The black bear spirit was timid, but he was good at flattery. He actually called out, Your Majesty. Farewell, senior. None of them had thick skin like the black bear spirit, so they could only bid farewell to senior. Xiaohua flew into the air and waved his hand. The heavenly horse landed in front of him. Xiaohua sat cross-legged on the back of the heavenly horse. The heavenly horse spread its wings of light, and the white light that filled the sky sprinkled in everyone's eyes. With a few swings of the wings of light, Xiaohua had already turned into a black dot and disappeared into the horizon. Louis! Everyone's eyes were filled with envy. Inside, Yuanya could not help but pull Louis aside and ask, Where are you going, Taoist priest? Why is he going there? Brother Ya. Louis smiled bitterly. Didn't you already ask the Taoist before he left? The Taoist priest didn't answer you, so how would I know? Yeah, don't ask too much. Xiao Jian smiled. Did you forget what I told you when I met Taoist priest Xiao back then? You said a lot, and one of them was that Taoist priest Xiao was a spy. Yuanya asked, puzzled. Xiao Jian glared at Yuanya fiercely. This bastard really touched the pot that didn't boil. He then said, Taoist priest Xiaohua's cultivation hasn't recovered yet. Now is the time for him to get rid of the shackles on his body. Didn't he say that when he returned, he would bring us to flattened copper pillar state? What? Not only was the black bear spirit stunned, even Qin Xiaoyao was shocked. Taoist priest Xiao, you said? Immortal priest Xiao isn't at his peak? Then, what kind of divine ability did he have when he was at his peak? Xiao Jian shrugged and blinked his small eyes. He said helplessly, Elder Xiao has always been like this. I have never seen his power at his peak. However, if he is already so powerful now, once he recovers his cultivation, not to mention the Imperial Academy of the Copper Pillar Nation, it is not impossible for him to wipe out the entire Copper Pillar Nation. What about the Imperial Academy? The Changeling Princess asked anxiously. The Imperial Academy of Copper Pillar State is the center of Copper Pillar State's Confucian cultivators. Did Elder Xiao spar with Confucian cultivators there? It was more than just a spar. Xiao Jian smiled faintly and showed off. If Princess wants, you can go to Copper Pillar State to investigate. Now, everyone in Copper Pillar State knows the name of Taoist priest Xiaohua. Good. The Changeling Princess clapped and smiled. With the help of a Taoist priest Xiao, our plan will succeed. That's right. Let's quickly discuss and arrange things before Elder Xiao returns. Qin Xiaoyao was also excited. Elder Xiao is a reassurance pill. We are the real medicine. That's right. It should be so. Xiao Jian also nodded. So the three started to discuss bit by bit. The recovery of Jiang country started. Xiaohua's trip was naturally for the light beast. He explained the situation of the earth crystal Yao milk in his meridians to the light beast. He asked about the secret art to remove the primal energies of the universe in the baby light beast's body. The light beast did not explain the specific method or secret art. It only left a place and time. Xiaohua knew that his sense of direction was far inferior to ordinary people and did not dare to leave before the time was up. But even so, after flying for an hour and looking at the same scenery in the sky, Xiaohua still could not find the path he had come from. But Xiaohua was not in a hurry. He let Little Black out and told Little Black to have the Pegasus send him to the place he had been 9 days ago. As expected, when Little Black finished speaking, the Pegasus neighed in the air and flew in a direction to the left. In just 4 hours, Xiaohua was high in the sky with strong winds again. Looking up at the sky, at an unknown height, Xiaohua seemed to have understood something. Then, he patted the Pegasus's neck. The Pegasus spread its wings of light again. It soared into the sky and flew in a certain direction. It seemed to be very free. Xiaohua released his spiritual will, paying attention to the movements within 200 miles. Previously, Xiaohua felt that his spirit sense, which was at the late Yuanying stage, was sufficient. But in this incomparably vast sky, not to mention 200 li, even 2,000 li was insignificant. Xiaohua really didn't know how that light beast was able to determine its direction in such a high altitude. Harumph! Just when Xiaohua was about to release his Buddhist sense, the Pegasus let out a cheerful neigh. Then, Xiaohua no longer needed to control it. It spread its wings and flew towards the heavenly fire, wind, and thunder in the sky. Damn it, it's actually here? Xiaohua was shocked. He wanted to take out the seal of overturning the sea to defend himself, but unfortunately, the seal of overturning the sea shook in his hand and disappeared. Xiaohua's face was filled with a bitter smile. His meridians were completely blocked. How could he use any mana? I'll use my body to resist first, Xiaohua pondered. If it doesn't work, then I'll release the innate primordial water. Now only the Buddhist sect and soul cultivators can use it. No wonder the light beast didn't tell me the exact location before, and the location it left behind was also vague. Perhaps this dangerous place is its secret? Xiaohua knew that the Pegasus and the light beast had some connection, so he simply withdrew his spiritual will and Buddha's consciousness, allowing the Pegasus to gallop in the sky. At this time, the Pegasus seemed to be the real Pegasus. The boundless sky was where it should live. Traces of white light were like a layer of light curtain, blocking all the heavenly fire, wind, and lightning outside, and as the Pegasus waved its wings of light, countless threads of fire and countless sounds of thunder swayed between the light feathers. An indescribable feeling, a yearning for freedom, was emitted from the brilliance, not only penetrating the sky, but also into Xiaohua's heart. Involuntarily, Xiaohua also stood up from the Pegasus' back, as if the slightly quiet sitting cross-legged was a kind of blasphemy to the Pegasus galloping. Phew! Xiaohua let out a long breath, as if the thousands of melancholy that had accumulated in his heart had dissipated. The Pegasus' freedom also seemed to break through the heavenly fire, wind, and lightning, splitting his heart open. The long-lost feeling of liveliness gradually seeped into Xiaohua's heart like rain, and the dryness caused by Xuexiuhe's helplessness finally had a possibility of being relieved. People, regardless of whether they were people of the secular world, chi-refining cultivators, or even cultivators with remarkable abilities, regardless of whether they had a Tao foundation, or whether they had Tao skills, everything they experienced would have an impact on their heart. This impact might be slight, like a bird's feather brushing past, but it might also be deep, like a metal or stone leaving a mark in one's heart. But no matter how deep the mark was, it was only a mark. It wasn't the entirety of life, nor was it the entirety of cultivation. Because of Xuexiuhe's helplessness death, it created an enormous shadow in Xiaohua's heart. Although he clearly knew that although Xuexiuhe's helplessness had died, that death was only a new beginning, and a new beginning was who knows how many times higher than the old ending. But after all, Xiaohua saw a living person self-destruct in front of him without the slightest hesitation. Xiaohua let Zhang Xiaohua's stone statue accompany beside the netherworld lotus, as if he wanted to bury his heart there. However, the dead left, never to return. The living still had to live, still had to wander about in front of his eyes. As a cultivator, Xiaohua had already gradually smoothed out this mark in the past 100 years of bitter cultivation. Previously, when he saw Princess Baihua's teasing words in front of the dragon boat, it was a kind of budding mood that gradually broke through the soil. And now, the unruly Pegasus, the heavenly fire, wind, and lightning, which were like mountains and seas, all allowed Xiaohua's mood, which had already grown wings, to finally fly. It was like a kind of metamorphosis, like a cocoon breaking free. It allowed Xiaohua's temperament and cultivation to improve greatly. Even the boulder-like bottleneck of the nascent soul stage that had been motionless for a long time now had a faint ripple. Everything clearly indicated that Xiaohua's trip this time was going to be fruitful. -12. Chapter 3374. Roar! Faintly, in the distance of the heavenly fire, wind, and lightning, the cry of a light beast could be heard. directly entering Xiaohua's ears. Xiaohua was overjoyed. The direction of the Pegasus was exactly where the sound came from. If possible, he would be able to see the light beast soon. However, at this moment, the Pegasus suddenly stopped. The waving light feathers and galloping hooves were all retracted. Even the dancing brilliance was gradually restrained. "Why aren't you going over?" Xiaohua was stunned. He sat down and patted the Pegasus' head. Unfortunately, the Pegasus only let out a few low cries and snorted a few times. The light feathers were already retracted back to its body. Its 4 hooves were only stomping on the ground, not flying forward at all. Could it be that the Pegasus is afraid of the light beast? Xiaohua looked at the distance with some suspicion, but immediately denied it. Although the Pegasus was some distance away from the light beast last time, it was very intimate with the light beast cub. After not seeing each other for a few days, there shouldn't be any estrangement, right? I'll. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Xiaohua's mind. Damn it, this light beast isn't testing me, right? This old thing. Looking at the strong heavenly fire, wind, and lightning in the surroundings, the heavenly wind that seemed as if it was cast by the wind, the fiery threads that looked like small snakes would rush out from time to time, and the lightning that looked like a flood dragon would strike down with a kacha sound. Xiaohua pinched his chin and pondered very thoughtfully. If Xiaohua were to say what he was thinking now, perhaps even the light beast would laugh to the point of rolling in the sky. Because Xiaohua was thinking, damn it, needless to say, this must be the light beast testing my strength, to see if I can pass through this section of the heavenly fire, wind, and lightning. Since the Pegasus can block the heavenly fire, there is no reason why I can't block it. But my Taoist robe can't block it. Even if I take out the scholarly robe and some magic treasures, they are all external objects that can block it, and not my own ability. The light beast is a demon of the 1,000 demons sacred realm. What it wants to see is the power of magic treasures. But if I don't have my Taoist robe, wouldn't I be naked, see a demon? The light beast cub and that male light beast are still okay, but isn't there still a female light beast here? Where is this Xiao supposed to put his face? The more he thought about it, the deeper the path became. Xiaohua couldn't possibly lose face for the human race, right? Perhaps I can only rely on the fire manipulation art or the lightning flash and thunder roll technique to block it with the help of the heavenly fire, wind, and thunder. Just as Xiaohua's brows relaxed, the radiance beast in the distance let out another long hiss, as if urging Xiaohua to hurry. Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, Senior, don't be anxious. Didn't you say that tomorrow is the day? Since this junior has come early, it's better for this junior to be prepared. As he spoke, Xiaohua gathered his remaining mana and formed a seal with both hands. Outside the pure white brilliance of the Pegasus, several dozen strands of fire were like jumping butterflies. They turned into pieces and pounced towards Xiaohua, completely covering Xiaohua. Go back and rest first. Xiaohua released his divine sense, enveloping the heavenly horse and sending it back into the small universe bag. Then, the surrounding heavenly fire that seemed to be able to topple mountains and overturn seas mixed with wind and thunder, howling as it drowned Xiaohua. Xiaohua's seemingly tall and thin figure instantly disappeared. The heavenly fire burns my broken body, the wind and thunder refine my remaining thoughts, the void is my path, the fire is my clothes, I will sing loudly and walk confidently in the universe. Within the wind and thunder, Xiaohua's lofty voice came from within. Then, a young man covered in fire walked out step by step from the heavenly fire, wind and thunder. With every step, a fire lotus would grow under his feet. With every step, whistling wind and thunder would rise outside his body. The radiance beast hiss sounded very close, but it took Xiaohua several hours to walk over step by step. These several hours of trekking were not inferior to ordinary people walking in the desert or in the river. Waves of heat and bursts of thunder were like furnace fire, like a hammer, constantly tempering Xiaohua's body. All kinds of soreness and pain drilled into Xiaohua's heart. It was only until he saw the radiance beast push the heavenly fire, wind and thunder away that he let out a sigh of relief. Xiaohua simply did not enter the Radiance Beast's brilliance. Standing outside, he bowed and said, Junior Xiaohua has come to keep the appointment today. Greetings to the two seniors. At this time, the Radiance Beast's figure was a lot bigger than before. Its lantern-sized eyes were flashing with scarlet flames. Inside the flames, one could not see any expression of the Radiance Beast. When the Radiance Beast opened its mouth, a loud buzzing sound was heard. The surrounding heavenly fire, wind and thunder were also shaken, as if they were breathing. Xiaohua, since you can pass through the heavenly fire, wind and thunder by yourself, it means that you have the qualifications to enter that place. The Radiance Beast shook its huge dragon head and shouted. However, just like I said 10 days ago, we will only bring you to that place. As for how to pass through that place, how to refine the earth crystal Yao milk in your body, that is your own matter. As long as I open the entrance to that place, it can be considered that I have resolved the karma between you and me. Xiaohua smiled and said, Junior knows this is what I have said before. Moreover, since Senior left behind this heavenly fire, wind and thunder test, you have already done your utmost for this Junior. This time, the karma between you and me can be considered to be completely resolved. Xiaohua, I still have to remind you that that place is my Radiance clan's training ground. The dangers inside are definitely not comparable to the heavenly fire, wind and thunder. It is also definitely not something that you can imagine. Even I have been seriously injured there. The Radiance Beast turned its head and looked at the impatient baby Radiance Beast, who opened its mouth and sucked in some heavenly fire. It said, Moreover, if my son enters that place, he will also not be protected by me. However, he has the innate divine ability of my clan. Perhaps he will be injured, but he will definitely not die. You still have to think thrice before you act. Do not blindly act recklessly. Many thanks for Senior's concern. Since he had already come here, how could Xiaohua turn back? On the other hand, the Radiance Beast's repeated persuasion made him feel that demons were not only demons, they also had human nature. They were definitely not like what old demon Jifeng had said. Come with me. The Radiance Beast knew that Xiaohua had already made up his mind. It turned around and roared a few words. The Radiance Beast responded with a few "ao-ao" sounds, seemingly very impatient and unwilling. The other Radiance Beast that had been silent all this time lowered its head, opened its mouth and stuck out its tongue, licking the Radiance Beast's head a few times. The Radiance Beast seemed to enjoy it very much. It actually rubbed against the Radiance Beast like a spoiled child. The Radiance Beast had no choice but to lick a few more times. Only then did the Radiance Beast cheerfully fly in front of Xiaohua. Every time the Radiance Beast took a step, clouds similar to ingots would appear under its feet. "Ao-ao!" The Radiance Beast cried a few times in a low voice. It crouched down, exposing its back in front of Xiaohua. Good, as you wish." Xiaohua looked at the two Radiance Beasts that were already flying. He already understood in his heart that the Radiance Beast had formed a karma with him. The Radiance Beast had brought him to the secret training ground of the Radiance Beast clan, and the Radiance Beast had carried him there. The karma between him and them had truly disappeared. It was not what they had said earlier. Xiaohua lifted his foot and stood on the Radiance Beast's back. The Radiance Beast raised its head, feeling rather uncomfortable. However, under the urging of the Radiance Beast, the Radiance Beast moved its four hooves and followed the two Radiance Beasts towards the sky of the heavenly fire wind lightning. The sky of the heavenly fire wind lightning was naturally filled with even more violent wind and lightning. There was another layer above the first layer, and each layer was even more violent than the previous. If Xiaohua came here by himself, without the protection of magic treasures, it would really be hard for him to resist the wind and lightning with just the strength of his body. However, at this moment, the fist-sized heavenly lightning and the heavenly wind that could tear the void apart were all blocked by the radiance of the Radiance Beasts. They were unable to touch Xiaohua and the Radiance Beast at all. What was special was that when Xiaohua tried to release his divine sense, the moment he released the radiance, A burst of pain that was comparable to being hit by a heavy hammer was transmitted to his Naiwan palace through his divine sense. The innate divine restriction outside his Naiwan palace was suffused with specks of golden light. Could it be, the Radiance Beast's training ground is in the sky? Xiaohua was already shocked that the Radiance Beast's training ground was in the hidden Immortal continent. Now that he saw the two Radiance Beasts flying towards the sky, he couldn't help but be even more surprised. After flying for a full hour, the Radiance Beast finally stopped when it saw that there was nothing else but the heavenly lightning, heavenly wind, and the indescribable darkness between the wind and lightning. The Radiance Beast finally stopped. The two Radiance Beasts whispered to each other for a moment. Then the Radiance Beast raised its head, opened its mouth, and spat out a mouthful of radiance. A scarlet color covered the entire sky. The scarlet specks in the radiance were actually the Radiance Beast's blood essence. Wherever the radiance landed, the heavenly fire wind lightning retreated, revealing an area of absolute darkness. When the Radiance Beast's blood essence splashed on the pitch-black area, numerous red specks suddenly appeared. These red specks grew bigger and bigger until they actually became red bubbles. However, when the bubbles reached a size of 10 zhang, they could no longer grow bigger. The heavenly fire wind lightning had already begun to shatter the red bubbles at the edges. Roar! Another loud roar resounded. The other Radiance Beast raised its head again, but this time, it didn't spit out the radiance from its mouth. Instead, it rushed out from the top of the Radiance Beast's head, from the two dragon horns that were a little smaller than an ordinary dragon's. Moreover, this radiance was exceptionally pure. Even the heavenly horse Guan Yu's holiness couldn't compare to it. Two beams of radiance rushed into the sky, instantly transforming into a waterfall. Thousands of thin threads shot with incomparable precision into the scarlet blood bubbles within a radius of 10 zhang. Every bubble was pierced by a thread of light. Boom! All the blood bubbles within a radius of 10 zhang burst at the same time. The pitch-black area under the blood bubbles seemed to have formed a scab. Piece by piece it cracked, and piece by piece it fell off. And when all the pitch-black area disappeared, a hole of 10 zhang in size appeared in the heavenly fire wind lightning. And inside the hole, it was actually the void. Hiss! Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air. He really didn't expect that the Radiance Beast's training ground was actually the void. Moreover, the entrance was in the heavenly fire wind lightning sky. -12. Chapter 3375. Xiaohua, this is the land of light trial of trials! The light beast roared, its voice shaking like thunder. My blood essence can last for 3 days. After you enter the land of light trial of trials, you must come out within 3 days. Otherwise, I'm afraid you can only be trapped in the land of light trial of trials. And this land of light trial of trials, even I, a light beast, don't dare to stay here for more than half a day. And the place I'm going to is the secret land of my light clan. I can't take you there. Of course, I'll also clearly tell you that this place is a maze in the void. Every place has dangers, and every danger is fatal. Of course, within this danger zone, there must be a place similar to my secret place. If you have the opportunity, you can definitely refine the earth crystal Yao milk in your body. Roar! The other light beast at the side roared again, making Xiaohua quite puzzled. Since this light beast can speak human language, then the other light beast can naturally also speak human language. Why didn't it speak? Hearing the roar of the light beast, this light beast hesitated for a moment. After a while, it sighed again. Alas, Xiaohua, I don't know why the so-called earth essence in your body is so much. The earth essence in your body is not inferior to that of a child. And your body can't contain so much earth essence. Even your so-called meridians can't contain it. The best way to get rid of the earth essence is to throw it away. There is a saying in hidden Immortal continent, throw away the baggage and go into battle. But since you found me, you must be unwilling to throw away the earth essence. Just now, I can see from your heavenly fire wind lightning that you have a certain foundation in body refinement. Now I'll teach you some of my light clan's secret techniques. I hope you can comprehend some of them and help you get through this difficult time. Moreover, at this time, I don't need to hide it from you anymore. The only thing that can eliminate the earth crystal in my light clan's cub is the storm in the void. Relying on this powerful storm and this secret technique, ordinary cub can turn the earth crystal in their body into their own. After it finished speaking, an extremely fine crystal thread emerged from the dragon horn of the radiant beast and fell on the space between Xiaohua's eyebrows. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent and hastily closed his eyes. A burst of coldness fell on him like drops of dew. Xiaohua only felt a burst of rumbling in his head, and a burst of indescribable dizziness made his vision turn black. When he opened his eyes again, the two light beasts and the baby light beast had already disappeared. The heavenly fire, wind, and thunder in the sky were fiercely shrinking and boiling in a radius of 10 feet, swallowing the black hole inch by inch that even light could not escape. 3 days! Xiaohua looked at the black hole that was much larger than himself and hesitated. He knew that the place the light beast wanted to take him to was dangerous, but he felt that by relying on his physical body, his soul cultivation, and his Buddhist cultivation, he might be able to escape from danger. But he never thought that there would be a time limit in this trial ground. In particular, after this period of time, he might not be able to return to the hidden immortal continent. This was a huge price to pay. Damn it, the light beast said that this place is not only a void, but also a void labyrinth. This Xiao got lost on the land, wouldn't this Xiao become a headless fly in the void? How would this Xiao know where to go? Xiaohua was really at his wits' end. Should I go or not? But this void is just a void. What is a void labyrinth? The void. Thinking of this, Xiaohua suddenly smiled. Damn it, it's not like this Xiao hasn't been to the void before. This Xiao has also used the devil world's concealing technique more than once or twice. So what if I go take a look now? At worst, if I see that the situation is not right, I will quickly retreat. Moreover, if this Xiao is lucky, I might be able to encounter a void storm as soon as I enter this void. It seemed that Xiaohua was unable to resist the temptation of getting rid of this burden. He was eager to give it a try. Step by step, he stepped in front of the black hole. Xiaohua tried to release his divine sense. Fortunately, divine sense was also useful in the void, but it was suppressed very badly. Rumble. Following the flash of green light between Xiaohua's eyebrows, the two green seal characters, thunder and lightning, rushed into the void. Layers of lightning and thunder also appeared, but the power was a lot weaker than that of the hidden immortal continent. Good. Since he saw that the lightning flashes, thunder rolls, and telekinesis were all effective, Xiaohua's courage was naturally boosted. He no longer acted like a cowardly little wife as he arrogantly stepped into the black hole. But how could he know that just as he entered the void, the flames around his body immediately extinguished as if they had met ice water? Damn it! Xiaohua almost lost his voice. He hastily looked left and right. Seeing that there was no one around, he felt relieved. He immediately took out his robe and put it on. After Xiaohua put on his robe, he looked up and unconsciously became stunned. Xiaohua revealed his body in the black hole. Unfortunately, there was no one nearby, so it could not be said that he was exposed. Of course, in Xiaohua's opinion, apart from the light beast, who else would know about this kind of secret place? But unfortunately, there was nothing absolute in this world. On the other side of the void maze where Xiaohua had yet to see its true appearance, a faint clear light suddenly appeared in the darkness. That clear light flashed, and then a ray of light was left in the void. In the time it took to drink a cup of tea, that ray of light gradually became longer and wider. When this ray of light was half an inch wide and half a foot long, an even more intense golden light suddenly blossomed in this ray of light. With a schwa sound, like silk being torn apart, that golden light streaked across the void and unexpectedly created a 1 zhang-long crack. Moreover, that golden light flickered and quickly blocked the crack. Immediately after, 2 slender white hands appeared in this crack. They were as gentle as a spring breeze caressing one's face, but also as vigorous as a tiger tearing apart a leopard. between the combination of movement and stillness, this crack was actually torn open by these two hands. Borrowing the light from outside the void, a well-built, fair-skinned man wearing golden armor and a purple-gold crown appeared. This man's eyebrows were like mountains, abnormally thick and black. His pair of tiger-like eyes contained no fear. At this moment, the two hands that could tear apart the void had already been retracted. His left hand hung at his waist, and a misty blue mirror floated in midair between his thumb and index finger. His right hand held a three-pointed, double-edged sword that was as thick as a duck egg. The tip of the sword flashed with a golden brilliance. This man's eyes revealed a trace of pleasant surprise. He raised his left hand, and the mirror flew in front of him. His fair-skinned left hand grabbed the mirror, and then the man spat out a three-colored brilliance from his mouth. Buzz, buzz! The mirror began to emit a misty blue brilliance. Go! The man's 5 fingers touched the back of the mirror. Woo! The clear light brewing on the mirror rushed into the crack in the void and disappeared extremely far away. Sure enough, it's a stable spatial node. A trace of joy appeared on the man's face, and then he put away the mirror in his hand. He took out a green ink cloud eye and placed it on his forehead. As the ink cloud eye flashed with intense light, the man's eyes slowly turned. Once the ink cloud eye returned to its original state, the man smiled. Hee, this old man has searched for this place for 100 years. Today, I've finally gotten what I wanted. If the ink cloud eye is correct, then the void-penetrating beast should be here. Once I obtain the void-penetrating beast, I can cultivate the heavenly eye. This heavenly eye ability is even more formidable than the Buddhist sect's heavenly eye. After he finished speaking, the man also put away the ink cloud eye. The three-pointed, double-edged blade in his hand danced in front of him, and his figure flew towards the crack in the void. The void was pitch black, but the purple-gold crown on the man's head emitted a misty golden light that protected the man's body. The golden light from the golden chainmail was even more eye-catching in the void. Out, the man stood in the void and coldly looked around. After which, he pointed his hand. As he raised his finger, the mirror that he had just put away flew out again. As the man spat out a mouthful of true qi, the mirror began to emit a dense clear light once more. However, this time, the clear light didn't rush out of the mirror. Instead, it rolled on the surface of the mirror, forming layers of ripples. Clear! The man opened his mouth again, and a stream of air appeared in the void. This stream of air blew onto the mirror, and the clear light quickly withdrew. After that, as the man lowered his head, all he saw was a patch of gray on the mirror. He couldn't see anything. Seeing the mirror like this, the man's expression didn't change at all. It was as if this was a matter of course. After carefully looking at it for a moment, the man took a deep breath and bit the tip of his tongue. With a poof, a mouthful of true qi that contained traces of true qi was spat onto the mirror. As the strands of blood fell, the entire mirror turned blood red, and then the mirror flew up from his hand. It spun around and charged towards a certain place in the void. Tens of thousands of strands of light rushed out from the mirror and disappeared into the void. Quick! The man actually pointed his finger like a Tao sect cultivator when he saw the blood-red color of the treasure mirror gradually disappear. The treasure mirror fell from a high place and landed in the man's hand. When the man lowered his head to take a look, he saw that the surface of the mirror was actually covered in densely packed veins. They appeared like cracks on glass, or like the messy branches on a large tree. When the man's gaze fell on these meridians, he saw that about 20% of them were swaying left and right and changing at any time. His expression changed greatly, and he cried out involuntarily. Isn't this a stable space node? Why is there such a passage inside? These passages are also so easily changing. Where am I supposed to find a void-penetrating beast? After hesitating for the time it took to smoke a cigarette, the man opened his mouth again and spat out another stream of true qi. Unfortunately, although the clear light on the mirror was overflowing, the range that the mirror could see was still limited. -12. Chapter 3376. Forget it. Seems like I can only find the whereabouts of the void beasts by entering this strange space node. As he spoke, the man once again took out his treasured mirror. A wisp of clear light emerged from the treasured mirror and shone at the place where the man had just entered. It condensed into a ball of light that was the same color as water. After doing this, the man finally felt relieved and put away his treasured mirror. He waved the three-pointed double-edged sword in his hand, and a golden light appeared out of thin air. The man took advantage of this light that had yet to disappear and rushed into the depths of the void. Xiaohua naturally didn't know that there was another person besides the three light beasts and himself in this labyrinth. He just stood in the void in a daze. That's right, a kind of indescribable familiar feeling emerged from his heart. The skin and flesh under the Taoist robe felt endless comfort, as if his hometown should be in this void. Strange! Xiaohua scratched his head. He really didn't understand. Previously, no matter if it was Xiaoyu continent or hidden Immortal continent, when this Xiao used the demon realm's concealment technique, this Xiao didn't encounter such a situation? This void is obviously difficult to enter. Not only can I not find the direction, it's also impossible to find any clues. How could this Xiao have come here before? Of course, this was only a kind of frightening feeling. Xiaohua's naked eye and divine sense couldn't see the so-called void labyrinth. He didn't even know what was one zhang away from him. Open, Xiaohua pondered for a bit. The green light between his eyebrows flashed again, and the illusion breaker magic eye that was completely similar to the naked eye opened. See? Just like that man, Xiaohua once again sucked in a breath of cold air. Because Xiaohua also saw a stretch of grayish-white color. Other than grayish-white, it was grayish-white, there was no other color. It was even more impossible to find the so-called direction. Damn it, isn't this going to die? Xiaohua frowned. There are no markings at all, how can I go? This is more difficult than finding a needle in a haystack. Moreover, where is the labyrinth that the light beast spoke of? Since the illusion breaker magic eye didn't have any effect, Xiaohua simply closed it. Looking with the naked eye, all he could see was pitch black. It was no different from a starless night. Xiaohua was like a lost sheep. He stood there helplessly. He wanted to go somewhere else to find his goal of happiness, but he was afraid that if he went too far, he would be even further away from his goal. Let's try it first. He couldn't just wait here forever. I only have 3 days. Xiaohua thought for a moment, and released his divine sense. He used the secret technique of the sun shrouding art to leave behind a divine sense mark in the void. He then activated the flight talisman and slowly flew into the distance. There wasn't any heaven and earth spiritual qi in the air, so Xiaohua couldn't use any Taoist magic arts. In just a moment, the true qi in his body was exhausted. Fortunately, in addition to the Taoist flying technique, Xiaohua also knew the soul cultivator's flying technique. However, in this vast world, the soul cultivator's flying technique was far inferior to the Taoist flying technique. Xiaohua had almost never used it. However, in this place, soul cultivators were the best candidates for flight. After flying for a while, Xiaohua frowned. Looking left and right at the unchanging void, an indescribable feeling arose in his heart. Just like in the night, although he couldn't see the direction clearly and didn't know where he was going, his intuition told him that he was very close to home. It was as if the smell of home had already drifted to his nose. Xiaohua's eyes turned a few times, then he turned around and flew in the direction of his left hand. After flying for half a cup of tea's time, Xiaohua stopped and looked at his left hand with an inconceivable expression. Because he clearly felt that the place he was looking at should be where his divine sense was. Pu ting ting! Xiaohua's little heart couldn't help but madly jump. For Xiaohua, who had no sense of direction, this was simply a kind of earth-shattering ecstasy. He had never felt such a wonderful sense of direction so clearly before. Almost without thinking, he closed his eyes and flew in the direction of his heart. After waiting for half a cup of tea's time, Xiaohua opened his eyes again. Astonishingly, the void gate that the light beast had torn open was right in front of Xiaohua's eyes. Great! Xiaohua let out a long sigh of relief, sincerely convinced. The heavenly Tao has always been fair to the people of the world. Although this Xiao is a cultivator, in terms of direction, I can't even compare to a mortal. However, when the heavenly Tao closed this door to this Xiao's direction, it opened another window for this Xiao. This Xiao can actually easily find the direction in the void. Void, there is no such thing as direction, but in this Xiao's eyes, it is like taking a leisurely stroll. Forget it, the heavenly Tao is really not unkind to this Xiao. That's right, Xiaohua had always been able to find the way. In everyone's eyes, this was inconceivable. However, who would have thought that in this void that no one could pass through, Xiaohua could also clearly sense the direction without relying on any magical ability. It was really inconceivable. Io! Xiaohua gathered himself and happily flew towards a place in the void. Suddenly, he thought of something. That's right, this Zhao's phoenix celestial body seems to have fallen into the void. Could it be, this is the effect of the celestial body? Immediately after, Xiaohua hurriedly raised his gaze and looked into the distance. He really wanted to see if he could find his lost phoenix celestial body in the void. Unfortunately, he naturally looked through the autumn water and did not see anything in the shape of a phoenix. Other than pitch black, there was only pitch black. It was as if this pitch black was the main theme of the void. Where did the phoenix celestial body go? Could it be, it is no longer in the void? Xiaohua's heart moved, suddenly giving birth to an inconceivable thought. Could it be that he has some other opportunity? Forget it, even if there is some opportunity, it is this Zhao's. The more opportunity he has, the happier this Xiao is. Xiaohua smiled until his eyes narrowed, almost humming a little tune. After flying for a while, Xiaohua suddenly turned his head. He really did not dare to believe that he could actually fly in such a straight line in the void without changing direction at all. Of course, Xiaohua himself was already certain. He could not help but fly straight back. When he saw a bean-sized light in the distance in the pitch-black darkness, Xiaohua finally confirmed that he was not mistaken. That was the location of the void gate. Only then did he turn around and fly forward with peace of mind. Since he had this kind of innate divine ability, Xiaohua's previous hesitation had already been dispelled. The void maze that was regarded as dangerous in the eyes of the light beast was probably not too frightening in his eyes. After flying like this for about the time it took to eat a meal, Xiaohua suddenly stopped and raised his head. Those star-like eyes gave birth to two strands of faint crimson red as he looked in one direction. An indescribable fear rose from the bottom of his heart. Almost without thinking, he hurriedly flew downwards. Just as he was flying, a fingernail-sized red dot suddenly appeared in the void. This red dot flashed and turned into a several zhang-wide vortex. Within the vortex, a crimson flame surged like a mountain flood, completely enveloping the void where Xiaohua was. Run! Xiaohua was greatly shocked. That flame was extremely strange. Before it could reach Xiaohua, that heat that caused the space to distort had already turned the Taoist robe that Xiaohua had just put on into nothingness. A scorching heat that was even more painful than being cut by a knife immediately spread from his skin. Although Xiaohua had already practiced the fire escape technique, and his body had also been baptized by the fire origin, he was still far from reaching the level of being impervious to fire. In particular, this flame was different from all the flames that Xiaohua had seen before. There was not a single thread of flame, and the shape of the flame was actually liquid. Moreover, the liquid was abnormally sparkling and translucent, extremely similar to the scarlet ripples of water. Although this flame was condensed into a liquid state, it was filled with berserk energy. Even in the void, it was still exceptionally rampant. As the fiery water flowed past, the void was completely dyed crimson. Damn it, is this water or fire? Ouch, this is bad. Xiaohua clearly felt the stabbing pain on his back growing increasingly larger. He knew that his injury was not light, but his flying speed was simply unable to increase. Almost without thinking, Xiaohua waved his hand and threw a dozen fire talismans on his back. With a few muffled rumbles, the incomparably powerful fireballs of Hidden Immortal Continent and Dawn Rain Continent were actually not much stronger than firecrackers in the void. However, Fortunately, when the wave of air rushed over, it forced Xiaohua to retreat several zhang away. Moreover, the fire talisman's fireballs and the strange water flow formed a kind of buffer for a short period of time. Xiaohua's back unexpectedly gave birth to a kind of cool feeling. Xiaohua's divine sense swept over and unconsciously trembled with fear. Because in just an instant, his back was already charred black. It seemed like the majority of his skin was scorched. Using his hand to touch it, it was hard, different from the usual roasted meat. Could it be that this is magma? Xiaohua looked at the water flow that was obviously in a liquid state, but the temperature was also unbelievably high. He was extremely bewildered. The splashes of water were as transparent as colored glass, very beautiful. Seeing that the splashes of water were so strange, Xiaohua did not dare to use any fire escape technique. No! I must escape from this water flow. Otherwise I will definitely be burned to death by this water flow. The fear in Xiaohua's heart had already reached an incomparable level. He hastily ran into the fire. Because of his nervousness, other than the fact that his back was already scorched, many goosebumps appeared on the rest of his body. Unfortunately, the situation was too urgent. Just as he thought of escaping, the strange water flow had already completely swallowed the flame produced by the fire talismans. That kind of feeling of being roasted on fire gradually emerged again. At this moment, Xiaohua did not have time to regret. He once again touched and threw out a handful of fire talismans. With great effort, he once again rushed forward several zhang. However, this time, Xiaohua had already learned well. While rushing forward, he used ethereal steps and slightly leaned to the left. Clearly, he wanted to escape from the envelopment of the water flow. -12. Chapter 3377. Ha! All of a sudden, Xiaohua sensed a large amount of Jinqi being generated from his back. He carefully checked his back and found out that the Jinqi came from his burnt skin. Under the high temperature of the water, the earth crystal Yao milk had been turned into natural power. Xiaohua was overjoyed and hurriedly tried to guide the natural energy into his meridians. Unfortunately, the surface of his burnt body did not have the earth crystal Yao milk, but the meridians inside his body were still blocked by the earth crystal Yao milk. The natural energy simply could not enter his dantian. Everything that Xiaohua did was useless. Helpless, Xiaohua could only channel most of the natural energy into his body and try his best to resist the burning of the strange water flow. The remaining natural energy was then guided into his meridians to be refined and turned into a little bit of magic power. After checking again for less than half a cup of tea, the fire talismans Xiaohua refined were already used up. And the strange water flow did not seem to weaken at all. Even after flying for a long time, Xiaohua still could not escape from the range of the water flow. Fortunately, there's only about 3 meters left. Xiaohua thought to himself as he glanced at the distance. Even if Xiaohua's cultivation was not at its peak, he could still fly over this 10 feet distance in a moment. But now, this 10 feet was the difference between life and death. If Xiaohua could fly out of this 10 feet distance, he would be able to escape from the sudden water flow. If he could not fly out, he would really die in this void. The water flow behind Xiaohua was more turbulent than a mountain torrent. It chased after Xiaohua's butt and seemed like it would soon annihilate him. Rise. Although Xiaohua was somewhat flustered, his expression was still calm. He formed a Buddhist seal and the innate primordial water in the clear water bottle suddenly rushed out. Since Xiaohua obtained the innate primordial water, every time he used it, it would succeed. Whether it was the morning rain continent or the hidden immortal continent, there were no magic treasures or imperial tools that could block it. But this was Xiaohua's last resort. Just as it turned into a water curtain and covered Xiaohua's body, Xiaohua's almost half-burnt back felt a chill. Pa pa pa. A burst of sound like beans being fried continuously rushed into Xiaohua's ears. When Xiaohua's divine sense swept over, his face turned pale. Under the strange water flow, every drop of the innate primordial water suddenly turned into fist-sized bubbles. These bubbles admittedly blocked the water flow, but when the water flowed over, these bubbles burst one after another. The sweeping power of the water flow was not blocked at all. I was wrong, very wrong. Xiaohua almost instantly recalled that when he had just entered the void, he had tried to use the lightning flash and thunder roll technique. Now, he was extremely regretful and said, "In this void, the most important thing is how to protect yourself, not how to attack. Even someone as strong as the light beast was injured in the void, so how could this Xiao be spared? Having a few more means of self-protection was the only way to enter the void. How can I attack?" Unfortunately, what was the use of regret and understanding at this point? Being able to escape was the best plan. In this kind of situation, Xiaohua did not have much magic power. Even if he did, how could he dare to use the water escape technique that he had just comprehended? He was afraid that before he could use it, he would be roasted by the high temperature of the water flow. I don't know if the spiritual fire can subdue this water flow. Xiaohua thought of his previous strongest method. But now, Xiaohua's magic power was insufficient, so he could not release the spiritual fire. What methods does the Buddhist sect have? Xiaohua hurriedly thought carefully. What methods can soul cultivators have? At this time, Xiaohua was somewhat scratching his ears and cheeks. He regretted that he did not have enough knowledge when it was time to use it. Fire carpet? Or clear water bottle? Xiaohua once again thought of several magic treasures that were practically unusable. However, as soon as these thoughts appeared, they were forcefully strangled to death by him. Xiaohua shook his head, trying his best to expel some unrealistic thoughts. Then, he looked at the void that was already beginning to distort, and a green light flashed between his eyebrows. When the words, thunder and lightning, appeared in the air, layers of lightning appeared out of thin air, forming a net of lightning behind Xiaohua. It forcefully blocked the foreign flames that had already touched Xiaohua's skin and burned several inches of Xiaohua's back. Now is the time. Xiaohua clenched his teeth and waved his hand. A flight talisman fell on his body. The true qi that had just been generated in his meridians rushed into the flight talisman. Whoosh! Xiaohua's figure suddenly sped up, rushing out of the range of the water flow like a stray dog. Xiaohua's lightning and thunder technique was admittedly powerful, and the net of lightning was admittedly tough. But in the face of the water flow that was wreaking havoc in the void, it was like child's play. In just a few seconds, all the lightning was swallowed by the water flow. Of course, what Xiaohua wanted was this few seconds. In this short period of time, Xiaohua had already rushed out a distance of nearly 1 zhang, and was about to fly out of the range of the water flow. But at this moment, a strange change occurred. Xiaohua's rapidly rushing figure suddenly stopped, and even in the blink of an eye, he bounced back in an extremely unreasonable manner, rushing into the range of the water flow, as if he was pushed back by someone. Damn it! Xiaohua, who had once again fallen into a dangerous situation, didn't have time to think. A green light appeared between his eyebrows again, and layers of lightning appeared again. His figure didn't dare to randomly fly to the side, and his face was even more ashen. I finally understand why that damned light beast called this a void maze. Xiaohua almost shouted in his heart, because just when he was about to escape from the range of the water flow, he seemed to have hit an incomparably solid wall, and that wall was the edge of the void. In other words, the left side of Xiaohua's current location was the boundary between the void and the continent. If Xiaohua could shatter the void, he would be able to escape from here. Unfortunately, Xiaohua didn't have the ability to shatter the void, and even if he did, the water flow behind him wouldn't give him the time. Xiaohua panicked, and just as he was about to escape towards his right side, the water flow had already broken through the lightning and pounced on Xiaohua again. Xiaohua turned his head to look at the surging water flow in a panic, and saw that the water flow was like a fire dragon chasing after him, and didn't want to spread in all directions. He suddenly realized, damn it, this seems to be a path in the maze, right? This water flow is just like the water in the maze, only rushing along this path, and I'm precisely on this path, and my flying speed can't compare to the flood. If I don't have a place to hide, I'll be swept away by the flood sooner or later. Rumble. The helpless Xiao Hua released the lightning again, and used his hand to slap his forehead, and shouted, "Open!" When the delusion breaker eye opened, a feeling of powerlessness mixed with despair spread out in Xiao Hua's heart. Because what the delusion breaker eye saw was a several zhang wide passage, and this passage seemed to have no end. Looking further, in the distance, at the side of the passage, there were streaks of light as thin as spider silk wantonly circling around like seaweed in water, and within these streaks of light, there were streaks of light like ripples, emitting different colors of brilliance as they circled around. Needless to say, these streaks of light were probably the same as the passage Xiao Hua was in right now. Space vein! Instantly, Xiao Hua almost blurted out. Wasn't this the space vein that Zhang Qishao was talking about? Those different streaks of light were different kinds of spiritual energy, and the strange water flow behind him was rushing into the void from an unknown plane. Thinking of this, even if Xiao Hua had the ability to break through the void, he probably wouldn't dare to casually break through. Who knew what plane was outside the void? Who knew what was inside that plane? Knowing that he was in a dangerous situation, Xiao Hua was even more helpless. Apart from using the lightning flash and thunder roll technique while using the delusion breaker eye to escape, he really didn't have any other methods. But even this method of struggling at death's door was ineffective, in just a moment. Because every time Xiao Hua used the lightning flash and thunder roll technique, he could block the torrent of flames. But every time it was destroyed by the torrent of flames, the momentum of the torrent of flames would increase a bit, and when it encountered the lightning net again, the lightning net would be able to block the torrent of flames for a bit less time. After a dozen or so times, the lightning net was easily destroyed by the torrent of flames, and could no longer resist the torrent of flames. Is this Xiao going to die here? Xiao Hua's heart was like dead ashes. Looking at the endless passage and the torrent of flames behind him that was even more ruthless and fierce than a deity transformation cultivator, Xiao Hua was already in a desperate situation. If I die, can my soul enter the space? Can my space still exist? If it can, this Xiao can also accompany Xue Xue and Master. Unfortunately, this was all wishful thinking on Xiao Hua's part. How could he know if the space would be intact after he died? This gamble was too big, so big that he didn't dare to try. Over there. Yes, it's over there. At this moment, Xiao Hua's already exhausted transcendence vision suddenly saw a dark green brilliance about 10 feet away from the edge of the passage. This brilliance was extremely dim, and if Xiao Hua hadn't been in a daze and stopped his transcendence vision there, he wouldn't have been able to see it. If it's a cave, that would be great. Xiao Hua's heart gave birth to a fluke, and he hoped that the place where the brilliance was located was a normal cave. However, even if that cave was a cave and was a safe place, with Xiao Hua's current flying speed, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to reach that place. Crack, crack, crack. Xiao Hua once again released lightning, but this time, all the lightning was instantly destroyed by the torrent of flames, and it didn't show any effect at all. At the same time, Xiao Hua waved his hand and took out the fire carpet that he hadn't used before. He activated it with his remaining true qi, causing the fire carpet to suddenly expand and cover the space behind Xiao Hua. It was like a checkpoint that blocked the passage to the void. -12. Chapter 3378. This fire carpet was originally damaged, and Xiao Hua had never refined it again. The only reason he used it now was because he wanted it to block the torrent of water. Of course, Xiao Hua didn't place too much hope on the fire carpet. With a flip of his hand, he took out the fire bottle that he had never used before. Although his heart was pained at the loss of the innate fire and other things, he couldn't care about it at this time. He only left some in the space as a backup and sent out the rest. Xiao Hua even held a few worn-out magic tools in his hand. He was going to casually throw them out when there was a gap. Sure enough, as Xiao Hua expected, the fire carpet blocking the passage was like a rag. With a rumbling sound, it was broken by the water flow. However, the moment it broke, the flames inside the fire carpet and the remaining arrays blocked the water flow. Crackle! A very strange sound, like an old farmer chopping firewood, was heard. The flames really did block the water flow for a few breaths. In the span of a few breaths, Xiaohua had flashed out another 3 meters or so. Damn it, not to mention the lightning escape, even if it was the flowing cloud movement technique, as long as I could use one of them, I wouldn't be in such a difficult situation. Xiaohua even had the heart to die. This flying speed that was slower than a snail was really dragging him into the abyss of death step by step. The water flow was naturally followed by the fire bottle. Seeing the fire bottle suddenly turn into water flow, even worse than the fire carpet, Xiaohua's heart turned cold. He was about to wave the magic tool in his hand. Boom! With a loud sound, an explosion more powerful than the explosion of dozens of fire talismans suddenly erupted from the place where the fire flask disappeared. At the same time, a strong airflow was produced. This airflow, along with that long-lost happiness, suddenly submerged Xiaohua. Xiaohua's figure was sent several feet away by this airflow. That dark green brilliance was already very close to him, and Xiaohua could already see that this dark green brilliance was produced by a collapsed pit. Although he didn't know what was inside this collapsed pit, but could there be a fate more tragic than falling into a fiery stream of water? Xiaohua hastily urged the flying talisman to rush towards the collapse. However, just as Xiaohua approached the collapse, a scarlet radiance that was half a step faster than Xiaohua blocked the front of the collapse. This water curtain of brilliance was precisely caused by the explosion of the fire bottle. Coincidentally, it blocked Xiaohua's escape route. Does the heavens want me dead? Xiaohua looked at the nearly 1 zhang wide water curtain that was blocking the collapse, and behind him, the surging current had already caught up to him, but it was only about 50 to 60 zhang away. If he hesitated for even a moment, he would definitely suffer a calamity. Go! Xiaohua did not dare to pass through the water curtain, and without any hesitation, he threw the few broken magic weapons in his hands into it. Puff, puff, puff. Several soft noises rang out, and these magic treasures really did explode in the water curtain, blasting open a hole that wasn't too big nor too small. And at this time, the flood had already chased down Xiaohua's left arm, and a feeling like his flesh was being cut was born there. At this time, Xiaohua also did not want to pass through the water curtain, and wondered if his handsome face would still be in good condition. Faster than a rabbit, he rushed into the already shrinking hole in the water curtain. Woo! The water curtain disappeared, and Xiaohua did not have enough time to dodge. The layer of skin on his buttocks that was still outside the collapse also disappeared at the same time. That heart-piercing pain was merciless. Wave after wave after wave, came from all over Xiaohua's body. Pain and luck. This was the only feeling Xiaohua had after escaping from death. If it was not for him being able to use his transcendence vision to see such a small collapse in the void passage, and if it was not for the fire carpet, fire bottle, and other items that helped him escape, how could he have possibly escaped from the flood of destruction? However, without waiting for Xiaohua to use his grief as a tongue to lick the pain in his body and heart, the dark green brilliance in the collapsed area suddenly flourished. Within the brilliance, countless tiny dots of light the size of soybeans appeared. These dots of light rapidly rotated, and all of a sudden, Xiaohua felt that the sky and earth were spinning. Moreover, the strange thing was, after these dots of light were born, there were some faintly discernible thin threads between them. These thin threads were gray in color, and firmly trapped Xiaohua. Not to mention magic power, even his body could not move in the slightest. Xiaohua turned pale with fright. Just as he was about to struggle, the brilliance in the collapsed area was annihilated again. Following the disappearance of the brilliance, the completely gray thin threads disappeared into the void, and Xiaohua naturally disappeared along with them. The collapsed area was like a shriveled fish bubble filled with water. It swelled up from the inside, and slowly disappeared. And in the distance inside the void passage, the scarlet tail could be seen, and gradually disappeared. No one knew where the tyrannical flood of fire went, and who it harmed. Xiaohua felt that the sky and earth were spinning. The brilliance in front of his eyes overflowed, and all of a sudden, he felt an indescribable sense of disgust. Before he could close his eyes, his body became light, and the huge binding force had already disappeared. However, his eyes and mind were still shaking like mountains and seas, unable to calm down for a long time. For no less than the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, Xiaohua kept his eyes closed. He did not release his divine sense, nor did he open his Dharma eyes. He simply kept his eyes closed. The struggle just now was really dangerous. If he was the slightest bit careless, he would have died. Moreover, at this moment, Xiaohua's entire body was covered in scars. Although he could not smell the fragrance of roasted meat from his mouth and nose, Xiaohua believed that as long as he cut a piece of meat from his body, it would be fragrant. In the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, Xiaohua's heart gradually calmed down, and he immediately opened his eyes. However, he saw that his eyes were still pitch black, and he still could not see any brilliance. It was as calm as when he had just entered the void. Looking at this calm void, Xiaohua slightly raised his head, as if he was looking at the sky, and the corners of his mouth revealed a rare confident smile. This was because he had already felt the correct direction with his naked eyes. Somewhere high up in the sky was where he had entered the void. If he wanted to, he could fly there right now. The so-called collapse seemed to be just a small passage in the vein of space. Through this collapse, Xiaohua did not arrive at any boundary, but instead arrived at another passage in the void. In other words, Xiaohua was still in the void maze. Thinking about this, Xiaohua patted his forehead and prepared to open his Dharma eyes. He wanted to use his heavenly eye connection to check the situation of the nearby space. But suddenly, a kind of vigilance rose from the bottom of his heart again. Xiaohua did not hesitate to enter the space. The place where Jade Archive Xiaohua appeared was a barren area of space. At this time, this barren space was emitting a thick black flame. This black flame flowed along the ground in all directions, emitting an extremely unpleasant burnt smell. Sigh! Jade Archive Xiaohua sighed and grabbed at the black flame with his hand. A crimson brilliance illuminated the area within 100 miles, and a crimson drop of water flashed with an extremely intense heat wave as Jade Archive Xiaohua pulled it out from the ground. This drop of water was precisely the drop of water that Xiaohua had created when he passed through the water curtain. When the torrent of water had washed away the water curtain, this drop of water had penetrated Xiaohua's arm, and was sent into the space by Xiaohua's mind. However, Xiaohua did not expect this drop of water to be so powerful. The ground of his space could not bear it at all. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, it had actually sunk more than 1,000 feet into the ground, and there was no end to it. If Jade Archive Xiaohua had not grabbed it, perhaps the space would have been penetrated by it. Even when the drop of water fell into Jade Archive Xiaohua's hand, a circle of distorted ripples appeared from Jade Archive Xiaohua's hand, as if Jade Archive Xiaohua's hand was also burned by the drop of water. Jade Archive Xiaohua looked at the water droplet in his hand. His eyes, which were as silver as the starry sky, flashed with a strange light. After another half a cup of tea, Jade Archive Xiaohua raised his head. His gaze fell on the strange inkstone on the left side of tracing light. Quick! Jade Archive Xiaohua reached out with his right hand, and a stream of lightning water flowed down from the inkstone and landed in front of Jade Archive Xiaohua. Poof! Jade Archive Xiaohua gently blew on it, and the lightning water immediately turned a strange color. The surrounding space began to distort, and in the blink of an eye, something that looked like a jade box was born from the lightning. Go! Jade Archive Xiaohua stretched out his hand, and the drop of water fell into the box formed by the lightning water. This box was also transparent, and when the drop of water fell into it, the lightning water on the surface of the box was stirred up like steam by the drop of water, producing countless tiny lightning threads. However, when the lightning threads rose to the top of the box, they met another lightning water, and the lightning threads fell into the lightning water, disappearing instantly. This cycle repeated over and over again, and the box created by the lightning water actually imprisoned the water droplet within. Good, Jade Archive Xiaohua praised. After which, he pointed with his finger, and the box formed by lightning water fell into the hole that the water droplet had penetrated. When the box fell into the hole, the black flames that had just flowed out flowed back into the hole. In a short moment, everything returned to its original state. Fellow Taoist! Jade Archive Xiaohua looked around and called out softly. Green-robed Xiaohua answered, and although there was no expression on his face, there was a hint of complaint in his voice. Fellow Taoist, this is our home, Ma. Why did you send everything in here? I don't know if this thing is water or fire, but it seems to be able to destroy space. Aren't you afraid of any future troubles by leaving it here? Fellow Taoist, don't panic. Jade Archive Xiaohua smiled and said, You also saw it. Although the torrent is powerful, this is only a small drop of water after all. Compared to our lightning water, it is still a bit inferior. Now that it has been absorbed into the lightning water, if you find any abnormalities with it, immediately inform I, and I will send it out. You're really a guy who would rather injure your mind to take advantage of others. In the future, when you meet other people, don't say that you know I. Green-robed Xiaohua's mouth slightly curled, and he looked very stiff. Hee. Jade Archive Xiaohua naturally knew that green-robed Xiaohua was mocking him for his mind being injured by the drop of water when he received it, and said, Our bodies were burned to pieces by this water, and if we didn't get some benefits from the water, I'm afraid that you and I wouldn't be able to sleep well, right? I did this for everyone's sake. 12. You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.